Good evening. Welcome to the Municipality of South Dundas Council meeting for Wednesday, March 18th, 2026. Welcome council team, staff, and guests, and everyone online joining us tonight. I have a motion, let it resolve that the March 18th, 2026 council meeting of the Municipality of South Dundas now be opened at 5:31 p.m. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Item number 2, confirmation of agenda. Any additions, deletions, or amendments to tonight's agenda? Seeing none, I have a motion. Let it resolve that the Council of the Municipality of South Dundas approve the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Councillor Vino.
Yeah, I'd like to disclose on the
Plaza.
the plaza fees, please.
Discussion item under
That
Plaza.
Yeah, which one is that? Implementation B, 11B.
11B, very good.
Yep.
I will also disclose on 11B, conflict of interest of the Plaza discussion. Adoption of minutes. We had a regular meeting on March 4th and a special meeting by Zoom. Both those meeting minutes are included in our agenda package. Any errors or omissions to those meeting minutes? Seeing none, I have a motion that let it resolve that the minutes of the following meetings, March 4th regular, March 9th special meeting, be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we are going to move to our public meeting. Welcome everybody to the biggest crowd we've had at a public meeting in South Dundas in our term. Appreciate it. So I have a motion and then I have a couple opening remarks. So I have a motion that we open a public meeting to consider the following two changes. A proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw 1048, SD file Z 2026-05-10308 Chess Road, Iroquois, and proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendment, SDG file OPA number 32, SD file Z 2026-310984, County Road number 2, Iroquois, and officially be opened at 5:33 p.m. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Okay, so I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Certainly council is going to generally value all of our engagement tonight. But before we get started, just a few things that I want to highlight as far as the procedures of the public meeting. Our planner, Peter Young, is here tonight, and he'll be introducing the file and giving us all the planned context of tonight's discussion. Once that is complete, we will open the floor to the public. So I'm required under the Planning Act, and I'm sure Peter Young will also have a slide on this, but to advise you that if you do not make an oral presentation tonight or a written submission before the proposed zoning bylaw amendments are adopted by the municipality, you will not be entitled to appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. I'm assuming that will not be a problem. We'll have lots of oral presentations tonight. When the time comes, if you wish to make an oral application, you can step forward to the mic, state your name and address. And we ask, of course, that the comments be of planning nature against the zoning application. And obviously make it relative to the input before us. Interest of time, if previous speakers have spoken and you want to have the same concerns, please step up, state your name and address, and say, I confirm those exact details, as opposed to repeating the same topic over and over again. Remind that all those top names will be included in the meeting minutes. And we just ask everybody to be courteous and just remind everybody for the microphone to push the button for it's red and you'll be live on the air, which also reminds me this meeting is being videotaped. It is on YouTube, so everything that is said is captured for official public records. Council will not be making a decision tonight. We do not have a bylaw in front of us. Tonight is to gather all the information from all the sides involved, and we will be reporting back to council either on April 8th or April 29th, depending on how long it takes to put together the data. Again, I thank everybody's time for being with us tonight, and I'm going to turn it over to our planner, Peter Young. Go ahead, Peter.
Thank you, Mayor Broad, and thank you everyone for coming. So I'll just go through my presentation, just a high-level overview of the process and different policies that Council will consider in making their decision. So for the next slide, as Mayor Broad said, this is the official public meeting under the Planning Act. So if you did want to be involved further, it's important to make either oral statements tonight, or you can always follow up in writing if you're not comfortable speaking to, as long as it's before a decision's made. So there's some time to do so as well. So there was application that was received and a public meeting notice given on February 19th. And a sign is posted on the property right in front. And that's the file number as well. Next slide. So the purpose and the effect of the zoning. So what's actually being proposed? It's to rezone the land from a agriculture exception 31, and that has to do with the former quarries, but generally it's permits agricultural or residential uses. So from agricultural 31 to agricultural 89. What does that mean? The specific proposal is to permit a contractor's shop or yard in addition to the other uses that are already permitted on the property, like residential or home-based business, those type of things. The proposed amendment would permit the shop and property to be used to store heavy equipment and materials by a landscaping company and contractors company. So that's what's being proposed. When council's making a decision on the matter, they look at what are the provincial policies, the county official plan policies, and how does it fit into their zoning bylaw. And I brought one out in particular because this is kind of in the rural, what we call a rural district, and that's the policies that are being looked at. So the official plan is, what is this area for? Is it for agriculture? Is it for a part of the villages? Is it what's the ultimate direction? You can see it's in the rural area. There to the north, there's formerly licensed now, but still in the official plan as is licensed pit and quarry. Those have now been surrendered. And there's also prime agricultural lands to the north and to the south. And waste influence area from a former landfill that, according to the records I saw, was closed in the 70s, somewhere in that area. Next slide, please. So anytime someone wants to do a contractor's yard, building products, that type of thing, a zoning amendment is required if it's in the rural district. So it's a site-specific zone that only applies to this particular property. So when council's looking at what are the policies, when someone wants to change the zoning bylaw, what are the things that we need to look at and consider before we make a decision? There's a list here, and I'll just summarize them for you. Would this use better be located in an urban area, a settlement area, or is it appropriate rural use? The volume and the pattern of the traffic flow, privacy of landowners, and if there's impacts, can they be mitigated by buffers or other types of measures to offset impacts? Next slide. If there's farming operations and rural residential uses, and there's impacts, can those be mitigated or reduced through conditions or design of the site? Does it make sense with the surrounding rural landscape? Things like servicing, such as your well, your septic, all those types of things that get considered. What other types of buffering are there, and what's the impact on tree cover? So those are kind of policies that council would consider, and that the applicant would need to address to as part of their submission. There's the property, that's from Street View. Right now, if you go, it's obviously snow and a sign, and I think, but the aerial is 2024. There's the existing garage, parking, storage areas. It's rural in the official plan, and it's about 2 acres of property. Surrounding land uses generally rural residential, some home-based businesses. There's a history of aggregate operations in the area. The lands to the south, from the records we saw, was sometime in the 90s that it was changed back to a rural zone from aggregate. And to the north, those licenses were surrendered within the last 5 years. The zoning is still in place, but it would be reviewed later on if the owner's not wishing to proceed with any licensing. It's also within 500 meters of that former landfill. So comments from external agencies, so we have to send it to the Conservation Authority, Hydro, all the regulatory agencies. None have been received to date. Comments from the public relate to truck traffic, speed, damage to the road, noise, air emissions, construction waste. And if you sent written comments in, a copy's also been forwarded to council as well, so they have all that information. And we did receive one in support as well. So the next steps, there's a consideration of comments and questions heard tonight. As we said too, if you're not a big public speaker, you're welcome to also just send something in writing later on, and that's completely okay. Council will get a copy of that and be able to consider it. And as the mayor said, hopefully a decision at either April 8th or 29th is the goal for the council. So I'll just, maybe we could leave it with a shot of the property, and I'll turn it back to Mayor Broad.
Thank you, Peter Young. Any questions from the council team to our planner? Kick us off, just in case there was clarifications. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, just on the, thank you, Mayor, through you, just on the this topic of the wayside pit or wayside quarry. I mean, a license can be obtained for that in the future. And if so, Peter, what kind of activities are we talking about that can be permitted as part of that use?
So right now, the zoning does permit the mineral aggregate. However, because the previous owner surrendered their license, if they want to bring that back again, they'd have to restart the process and do all the studies. I took a look at the site plan. It's one of the ones that's like a hand-drawn, like quite an old one. So they would have to kind of restart the process at some point in front of you as members of County Council and South Dundas Council. We would be updating the zoning and it may go back to a rural zone if the owner's not interested in proceeding that. They had completed the rehabilitation plan on those properties as well.
Very good. Okay, well, we'll open it up to the public. If you have interest in speaking, please come forward. You can sit at the chair, push the mic on so the mic is red, state your name and your address.
Okay, it's red.
Very good.
Evening, everyone. I actually live on Chess Road, like the majority of this side. So,
Just state your name and...
my name is George
sorry.
McDowell, address 10309 Chess Road. Okay? I know how my first comment is about the planning department talks about the pit that used to be there, and it was zoned that. My question is, how many residents lived on the street when that pit was there? To considering how many residents live on the street now, right? So that's just one of my comments and concerns if they want to rezone it or any zoning amendment to our street to begin with. Okay, because when I bought on my street 4 years ago, I did my background checks on what the street was zoned for. It was residential. So who doesn't want to live in a rural residential street? Dead end, of course, be the second to last house, nice and quiet, enjoy it, right? Retire there. Now, you know, the noise has increased. You know, the people across the road, their business has increased, which is good for them, right? Small business, you want to see them grow and expand, make money. That's what we all want. But along with that comes the noise, the pollution, the deterioration of the work, the road, right? And, you know, these people across the street, they're running aggregates and they're doing snow removal. So they're coming and going at all hours of the day and all hours of the night. right? My house is across from them. My south side of my house is all windows. When they idle their trucks out there for half an hour to an hour in the winter, I get to see it, right? When they're working in their shop, grinding, hotseeing off their vehicles during the day, I get to hear it. When they're doing it on the weekends, we get to hear it. Where's my enjoyment of the property, right? There is none. My enjoyment centers around when they're not there, right? And these gentlemen are small business owners, so they do a lot of that the maintenance themselves, right? To cut their costs so they can be more profitable, which is totally understandable. But why does it have to be in a residential area? The companies have been in business longer than 4 years, so where were they before they moved on Chest Street? I don't know, but why? Why? And since I did my research when I bought my property to find out it was residential, the businesses across the street, the owners are local. So they know the bylaws, they know the zoning, but they moved in there knowing full well that they run commercial businesses and they're moving into a residential zoned area. My question is why and how come they're still there? Until the residents had to stand up and say, hey, whoa, what's going on here? Right? At the beginning, we accepted it, we put up with it, but then they got bigger, more noise, right? So that's my concern with that. Then now my next concern is the environmental issue here. These gentlemen clean their vehicles, they do maintenance out in the yard, right? All that grease, oil, salt, because they work at the ports offloading and salt and loading it, right? That's seeping into the ground, which is going to contaminate eventually my well water. And everyone's on the street, right? So that's a concern of mine. Like, who's going to fix my well water? And has an environmental assessment ever been done on the property prior to them owning it or since they've been there, right? I don't know, right? The next thing is public safety on our street. It's a narrow road, no shoulders, no sidewalks. These are large trucks with trailers, with excavators in the back running up and down the street, different times of the day, different hours of the day, right? Limited sidewalks, no sidewalks. So, until the speed limit on the street used to be an 80, right? That's pretty fast on a dead end street. And those trucks got to come in and out only at one end. They can't come in and drive out, so they're always there, right? And as you can tell by the street, you see the damage to it. It's not even been 2 years yet. And that's taxpayers' money, right? And so we're going to have to live with it again. Great job it is, because when we first got there, it was bad. You repaved it and it was nice, and now it's getting worse again, which, what's it going to be in another 5 years, 10 years, who knows, right? So that's my concern. And another concern when it comes to environmental issue is they burn construction waste there. Right? Again, that's going to seep into the groundwater. It's construction waste. It should be taken to a landfill site, right? And the downside is that Iroquois landfill site won't accept construction waste, right? So I don't know. To me, I don't know if it's clean or dirty lumber, but if it's construction waste, to me, it's dirty lumber, which can't be burnt, right? So that's a concern. And again, it comes back to my water and everyone's water on the street, right? If it gets into the water table, we have to drink it. No one else, right? So those are some of my concerns about that. We talked about the noise, all hours of the day, the lights, the backing up, right? We've had an instance that a horn went off for 4.5 minutes, an air horn. Yeah. And we had to listen to it, right? Whatever reason it went off for, right? It went off. And truck drivers are considered professional drivers. They know what they're doing in the wheel. They should know, or else they shouldn't have their DZ license, right? So to intentionally or unintentionally blow a horn for 4.5 minutes is uncalled for in a residential area. I know none of you folks would like it if someone pulled up in front of your house in a big truck and laid on an air horn for 4.5 minutes, right? It's crazy. And then we also have to listen to generators on weekends and hot seas on the weekend. I know they have to clean their vehicles, but this is just noise on our downtime to enjoy our property, and we don't get to, right? So
I'll give you the wrap up.
wrap it up. Okay, we talked about that. Okay, yeah, I'll just wrap it up there, but, you know, my last comment about them in the area, you know, good for their business, but property taxes. We all pay our property tax. They've been zoned residential for 4 years, paying residential property tax. Yeah, I don't know if that's fair to all the other taxpayers in the municipality, but that's a concern. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, Mr. McDowell. Very good. Any other comments? Yes, please step forward.
I'm actually not an owner of a property there. My son and daughter-in-law are. They own 10314 Chest
Can you
Road.
just state your name and
My
address?
name
please?
is Joyce McDonald.
And your address, please?
It's 88 Scoop, well, the address for
No,
there
your
is
address, please.
88 Scugog Street, Bowmanville, Ontario.
Very good.
And I just wanted to confirm that you're in receipt of 2 letters from Jonathan Whitaker regarding this property. 'Cause I have
I believe so, but if not, we'll check our
copies of them.
records.
We can add that to the list to ensure there's both letters received. Yes?
He said he'd already sent them. He's away on a meeting. My other concern is I come and visit there and I've walked that property and I don't know who shoots
Could
guns.
you please address the council team, please?
Sorry, I don't know
Yeah.
who shoots guns there, but I've walked the property behind where that property is situated, or in front of, whatever, and had someone on the property and then someone shooting a gun. Guns from that. There's not many properties there, so it came from there, but I don't know.
Sure.
So just my concern, because, you know, you're out walking and you don't expect something like that when you're on your children's property,
Very
in
good.
a rural property. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I can confirm that we did receive, the deputy mayor has checked his emails. We did receive that letter.
There's 2.
Okay. 2 emails. Thank you. Yeah. Other comments?
Tom Park, 10318 Chess Road. I just want to add to her thing about gunshots. It's not 1 or 2 gunshots. It's all day, and they just fire away. And then they have a party, burn garbage, go home, and let it burn all night. Now, what's going on?
So, thank you for your comments, but they're not related to what the zoning of the property would be. So if you have
But it's
comments,
noise.
no, appreciate that.
And
Would be
it's
a-
all, not only noise, why do we pay for, if I want to burn, I have to pay a burn permit. We all know why we got that burn permit down here. Many years ago, that problem that we had on the 401, do you all remember that, when that big accident happened on the 401? Because somebody was burning garbage, and the trucks went through that smoke and couldn't see, and there was like a 4, 5, 6 car pileup. That's why this all started. And now they're just, you know.
2
it's
things.
at-
Just hold on a second. Just hold on. Can we have please conversations in the audience to nil so we can hear? And please let your remarks represent the zoning amendment.
Well, to me it is, because it's a fire hazard, right? This is a wooded area. Smoke, there's just, you know, the noise. 6 o'clock in the morning, the dump trucks are banging the back gate. 6 in the morning. Have you heard that noise? It will rock you out of your bed faster than you know. And it's not once or twice, it happens a lot. So again, we're talking noise here, and something has to be done about it. That's why we have in Morrisburg, there is an area where all the commercial vehicles are. Same in Iroquois, not on our street. And that's, again, let's talk about what should be good for us as people that pay our taxes there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Park. Appreciate your comments.
you don't mind, I'm going to sit.
Yes, absolutely, you can sit.
Bruce Davidson, I'm at 10317 Chess Road. And my biggest concern is that if this zoning is changed, that it sets a precedent for anything else along that road. We bought our houses knowing that it was a residential area. I agree with George, we looked up and down the road. There was nothing there that would indicate that we were moving into an industrial area. If I wanted to live in an industrial area, I would have gone there. But this is residential. I don't want it to see it become residential. And I don't want to see any precedent set for anybody else along the road that wants to set up a business that would affect our enjoyment of our own homes. It's basically all I have to say. Keep the residential, keep it separated from commercial, and let us enjoy the properties we've spent so much to get.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson.
Mayor, councillors, Benjamin Standish. I live at 10311 Chess Road, directly across the street from the 10308 Chess Road. My wife and I bought this property. I agree with the last two that spoke. We investigated. We also looked at the property before these two gentlemen purchased it. At that time, I asked our real estate agent if this property could be flipped to commercial. He was told that we would end up here at some point if that was the case. I don't agree with it. I don't like the noise. I don't want to reiterate what they've already said. It took me 2 years to clear my property, and a year to build a house. I retired there. I would really like them to move. The two gentlemen, one lives on 4 Sutton in a nice quiet residential area. The other one lives on 10 acres. I don't see why they can't build a building on his property. One gentleman owns property over here in Iroquois in an industrial commercial section. Build a building there. Sell the property and move. I didn't buy a piece of property or build a house where I am now to listen to the noise that I'm listening to every day, pretty well every day, including today. I don't know what they were doing today with the doors closed, descaling a truck or banging, but there's no respect. There's none there. Anyway, that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Mr. Standish.
Thank you.
If there's nobody else, I will give the opportunity to the landowner to make some comments.
Steve Jangra, one of the owners of the building, owner of Landex Earthworks.
I'm Gary Cochran, owner of Cochran Construction, also one of the owners of the building. Today we're here regarding our request for a zoning amendment to permit a contractor yard at 10308 Chess Road. The property is primarily used to park our trucks, equipment when not in use, with occasional on-site washing and maintenance performed by our employees. Our vehicles leave in the morning, they return in the evening. There's little to no ongoing traffic throughout the day, and combined operations do not increase traffic beyond this typical pattern. We understand there may be concerns raised, however, it is important that the decisions are based on facts and planning consistency. There are 14 similar approvals within the township, including 5 that specifically permit heavy equipment. This application is consistent with those approvals. Additionally, one of the currently permitted uses on this property is a tile drainage operation, which utilizes the same trucks and equipment. In practical terms, the impact is already contemplated within the existing zoning. Our operation has been using this property since May of 2021, prior to most of the complaints we've heard, those residents moving in. So the type of the activity being discussed is not new to the area. We understand the concerns about noise. Trucks are started briefly around 6:30 a.m. before leaving, and any washing or maintenance activities are occasional and conducted during normal daytime hours. Both companies are proud to support local organizations, sports teams, and operate respectfully within the community. We are open to reasonable conditions to address concerns. This is a low-impact use that supports local businesses. We respectfully ask for your support. I'm going to pass this on to Steve.
I don't know much else what to say, other than, as far as the burning goes, we do have an agricultural permit for the property, and the wood that we do burn is just clean construction wood, mostly generated through Garris Company, which if we were to take it to Iroquois dump is a $10 fee for them to burn on their site. So we never considered that to be an issue. As far as us not paying attention to the fires, I personally am the one that burns it, and I spend the night there. So I've got an office with a couch that turns into a bed. So it's not being left unattended. It's not being irresponsibly conducted. It's all, as far as we know, babysat. You know, the precedent has already been set for a business like ours on a property like this. Like, I worked for Frank Auld Excavating before I started this, and I spent my years driving up and down this road with dump trucks. Unfortunately, most of the complaints that are coming from new residents of the road that don't understand that this was a dump and sand pits. And we understand that there's houses there now, but when we purchased the property, definitely our fault. We didn't realize the zoning. That was an oversight. We just saw the ag, and some of the uses kind of fell in close to what we thought we were. And so we'll own that. That's our fault for sure. But as far as it being a surprise that there's dump trucks going up and down that road, I don't see how empty trucks that put low pressure on the road compared to even a passenger vehicle are hurting the road. And we petitioned to have the speed limit reduced due to complaints. When the complaints were brought forward, we lowered our speeds right away. We're not out to hurt anybody or anything. We're just trying to run our businesses. So I don't know what else I got to say about it.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Zingro, Mr. Cochran, thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Any further comments or questions from the council team? Councilor Ward?
I have two questions.
Yeah.
Questions?
There's just feedback.
Click your button. Just click your button.
There we go. Thank you. So I just have two questions, Mayor, if I may. One is for the applicant. So if I could ask that first. Looking at the listed uses, you mentioned something about tile drainage. Do you perform tile drainage as a current practice in your business?
No, we're not a licensed tile drainage company.
Okay.
We do, however, go and do repairs for some farmers as far as like just a broken pipe and whatnot. But the equipment you would use in a tile drainage outfit, excavators, dump trucks, dozers, all the like, is the same exact equipment that we're using, short of a tile plow. So, you can see where I would think that, okay, if that's allowed, there's one thing that's different, and it's a license and a tile plow. Other than that, it's all the same stuff, so.
And then, Mayor, my follow-up question is to the planner. So Peter and Mr. Young, I wonder if you could answer this for me. So the surrounding properties are all zoned agricultural, correct? Not residential? I just want to make that distinction, because when I look at the zoning map, it says everything is ag, and then I look under permitted uses of ag. I just want to clarify, just because I'm looking at the map, what that means, because to me, ag has quite a few listed loud, and there's quite a few uses in that ag zone, so.
Definitely, Councillor, I'm happy to speak to that. So right now, the zoning around the general area is agricultural. Now that permits, as has been said, a whole bunch of different uses. One caveat, though, is like a lot of them require a certain land area to actually use that property. So I'd have to review some of the smaller, if it's only 1 or 2 acres, maybe it's only residential and a few other uses, home-based business, where if it's a larger property, it can have a full farming operation, grain dryer, etc. So that's, it does depend on the size of the property, on what's permitted. Some might only permit residential because they're smaller.
And then one follow-up, Mayor, to the planner again, Mr. Young, the landfill that is on that road is 500 meters to the property line of the proposed use?
Yeah, just it's about partway through the property, so about where the garage is. That's where that line is. Now the location is pretty approximate. It's if you look at the history of it, it's just lot 4 or 2, I forget, concession 33, and it closed in the 70s. So I don't have that detail, but what we have from the province is the 500 meters is about where the building is, right on.
And then another follow-up is, do we know if that was a residential landfill or if that was just, sorry, I'm asking.
What I saw, it just says Briston, which I assume means Brinston, landfill, and it didn't say anything, and it closed in the 70s. I don't know anything beyond that, or if maybe someone that's lived in the area or worked for the township longer might.
That's up to, that's all the only questions I have.
I can speak to that. We own the
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, Mayor, thank you, and through you, Mayor Broad. I just do have a couple questions, and it's just more of fact-finding, not decision-making, just fact-finding based on some comments. And one of the comments we received, not here tonight, and we received through a lot of emails, was the deterioration or the degradation of the road itself. And I was wondering if Public Works, Mr. Hyman, could speak upon the use of the road and over the years how it has deteriorated, and at what level it's deteriorated, and what, if you want to comment on what you believe is a factor in that.
Go ahead, Director.
Thank you, Mayor Council. So through you, Mayor. So that road does have cracking on it. In 2024, I believe, we did an SRO, which is a surface renewal overlay. It was part of a surface treatment program that we tried. Instead of putting micro or another double surface treatment on, we put we put a 10 millimeter scratch lift of asphalt to fill in the wheel rutting and potholes. And then we applied 30 millimeters or an inch and a quarter of HL2 asphalt as part of our overlay program. So since that has happened, yes, there is cracking, but the municipality fully expected there to be cracking. We have more quieter roads within the municipality that we did the SRO on, and they have cracking on them. So would this be a prime candidate of crack sealing? Obviously, sure. We could go in and we could route out the cracks and we could put tar in, and then we would do a crack sealing like the counties do on Highway 43 or County Road 31. But as far as degradation to the road, there's no wheel rutting. So wheel rutting is visible signs of the road caving in where the tires would drive, or there's no raveling. And what I mean by raveling is when a heavy vehicle, which is this is predominant in Ottawa with the OC Transpo buses, when they approach a bus stop, just that forward braking momentum will make the asphalt ravel. You'll get speed bumps on it. And there's none coming out of the proponent's yard, or there's none turning off of County Road 1 onto or approaching County Road 1 at the stop sign. So that's my input as far as the road. And keep in mind that the municipality plows that road, and we have plow trucks that are also part of that road, which I would believe is creating the cracking along the edge of the road, because that's where our wing would start to get the snow off the road. So there is a combination of maybe their vehicles plus my vehicles. I can't honestly say that it's just their vehicles that are causing the cracking. So that's what I can offer at this time.
Follow up?
Subsequent, just real quick, remind me what the speed limit is on that road?
Through you, Mayor Broad, that was an 80 kilometer an hour road under the Highway Traffic Act. A speed review was performed. At that point, I did make a presentation to council to reduce it to 70 based off of the speed data that was attained through the rubber strips on the road, plus our electronic speed sign. And at that point, council made the executive decision to drop it further to a 60 kilometer an hour, which is now posted as a 60 kilometer under the Highway Traffic Act.
Okay. And may I have a follow-up as well? Just another question to.
Yes, just go ahead, Deputy.
And I understand CAO Bendahan that bylaw is not here, but, you know, there has been some comments about noise and other activities, burning and whatnot. What's the level of complaints, or what's the level of activity that the bylaw officers had to go out and address formal complaints?
So I don't have specifics, but certainly one of the reasons we're at this point this evening is a result of the complaints that have been brought forward, and working with the landowner to ensure, to achieve compliance on the property in terms of zoning. So that's actually what necessitated the purpose why we're here tonight is complaints that we investigated, and then that further determination that use of the property needed to be legitimized.
Follow up again. Sorry, I don't mean to put you in the spot, but and I understand it's complaint based. But out of all the complaints, how many do you know legitimately were the complaints legitimate and had to be addressed?
So I would say yes, they were legitimate, and that's why we're here. Is that we're trying to ensure that that the use conforms with the zoning.
Thank you, CEO. Further questions, comments? Councillor Smith.
Through you, Mayor Broad. This is a question for the planner. How is it that, what is the difference between the agriculture A89 versus the 31 or whatever it was before? Just explain the difference of what extra activities are allowed.
Through the mayor, the A89 would be a new site-specific that only would apply to this property if it was passed, and it would only permit the contractor's yard in addition to the other uses. So the uses that are already permitted would be allowed, plus one new use would be contractors allowed yard, which is not allowed any in the agricultural zones, unless, as the gentleman said, there are other properties that have gone through this process in other locations. But this would apply just to this property, every use that's permitted right now, plus the contractor's yard.
Yeah, so just a follow-up to that is maybe just possible, not right now, but the other, you said there's like 6 other ones in our area that have this same exemption. Is it possible at a later date or before we make a decision, could we get these examples in front of us just so we could kind of use it for comparison's sake?
Yes,
is
that can be
possible?
part of
Okay.
the report. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, and just, I'm trying to figure out how it is that, how it doesn't have to take the jump to commercial. How it's acceptable to keep it as agriculture, why it doesn't have to go straight to commercial. That's what I'm just trying to figure out.
Depending on their proposal, sometimes people can go straight to like it would be a rural industrial might be the type of use that would permit an even broader range. So a lot of times when there's just one type of use that's being looked for and they don't want every single other industrial use that might be allowed, then we would just have that one exemption just for that one use. So if in the bylaw, you'll see that happens quite a bit, just because once that use is listed, if once again, let's say you went to rural industrial, there's all sorts of other uses that the owner may not even want to put on the property. So trying to scope it to what they actually want to do. That's usually why it's site specific.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Very good. Seeing that is the end. Any last comments on this file, Mr. Young, before we move on? Oh, okay. So this will end the first portion of our public meeting. I want to thank the landowners on Chess Road and the business owners of the application. This is very respectful, and appreciate everybody's attendance, and your comments have all been documented. And Mr. Young will bring back a report at one of our next 2 future council meetings where we'll make that decisions. So thank you to everybody, and please stay for the rest of the meeting. If not, you may leave. And I'll give everybody a few minutes. Okay, yep. Okay, we returning for 5B, a proposal official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, SD file OP number 32, SD file Z 2026-03 1084 County Road 2, Iroquois. Peter Young.
Thank you, Mayor Broad, and thank you, Council. I will give an overview of the process. There's two different types of processes, a county and local municipal process. And then I know the applicant also has a presentation that they want to make with more details about their proposal, but I'll just start with the process. Next slide, please. So similar to the last meeting, it's a public meeting under the Planning Act. This one also is section 1722 is official plan, so it's two types of applications, official plan and zoning. And as the mayor said in the introduction, if there's anyone that does want to be involved in an appeal or a party, they should either speak tonight or send a letter before a decision is made to the municipality or to the counties. So the public meeting notice was given on February 19th. There's two applications, the official plan amendment 32 and the zoning bylaw amendment. So we'll start with the official plan amendment. So this is to amend the county official plan to expand the boundary of Iroquois. So in the past, anytime a township wanted to, or municipality wanted to update their boundary, they had to go through a major review, take some land out, add it to other places, and it took kind of years to complete. The province recently changed that process in 2024, and this is actually the first application we received like this. It's a straight expansion. So the proposal is to redesignate it from rural district to be inside the boundary on residential district. Ultimately, the decision of this is county council, where you have two representatives, Mayor Broad and Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. But the entire council's position will be considered at county council with your representatives there. So the next slide is the zoning. So it's a rezoning from a rural zone to a residential second density to permit semi-detached and single detached dwellings in a future plan of subdivision. There would be a holding provision until the water and sewer is extended to the property. And we talked about doing some special exemptions to some of the standards, the setbacks and the frontages. It looks like we may just be able to meet all the standards, but we'll bring the final bylaw for consideration at a later date. So the next slide. So we look at the similar to the last meeting, but quite different policies. Now we're looking at settlement area boundary expansion process. The residential districts, what's the R2 zone residential? So it's a different set of policies that the planners for the developer had to address. Next slide. Again, it's rural, it's just on the edge of the boundary, rural residential surrounding and future urban to the west, and the rail yard to the north and the 401. That's just a picture from a week or two ago. So we've heard from several of the agencies, and at this stage, the agencies, it's more of a high-level comment that they be providing for if there is a future subdivision application. CN, they want to do noise vibration studies and look at the impact on their setbacks from the railway. South Nation Conservation to look at some of the stormwater management in the future. And SDG counties, if there's a future subdivision that they would need some traffic review, and they've already done some of that as well. We've also received comments from the public regarding the potential increase in traffic volumes and potential for unsafe walkways or not really a walkway, I guess, more is for pedestrians at this stage. It would be along the county road to get to Iroquois. So this is, again, more conceptual, high level. Does council and county council enlarge the boundary of Iroquois? And does council change the zoning to a residential zone that would permit a subdivision. But if there would be a subdivision, there's still a separate application that has a lot more details, the layout, the stormwater, additional technical studies. The developer has done a concept to show how it can work and that they'll be presenting, so council can consider that and see what happened. Ultimately, they could come with a different plan, but they've submitted a plan that would meet the zoning that's proposed. So we're anticipating if the official plan and zoning was approved, the plan, the subdivision would be later this year. And so in terms of the next steps, because this is a two-tier process, we'll hear from the developer and any members of the public tonight. We'll bring a report back to the next council meeting with a recommendation and for council to take a position on. And then whatever South Dundas's position is goes to county council, the meeting after that. If the official plan amendment's approved, then the zoning goes back to council for a final decision on that. It could also wait until maybe the subdivision's submitted if there are plans for some more tweaks before the final layout. And with that, through the mayor, there is a presentation from the applicant if you like.
Very good. We could come forward. Could just hit the button, get the mic red, and you just state your names for us all, just so we have it for the record.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name is Scott Day, and I'm a planner at Foten Planning and Design, which is a land use planning firm in Kingston, Ontario. And I'm joined by my colleague Alicia Ackroyd, who is a senior planner at Foten. And this is, if you want to introduce yourself, but this is Brent Woodside, and he is a engineer at EVB Engineering based in Cornwall. But if you want to elaborate further, that's okay.
Yeah, I'm the civil designer with EVB Engineering, representing Grant and Alistair. So
Very good. Thank you.
So sorry, I'll begin the presentation. So this evening I will be presenting applications for an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment pertaining to the lands described as part of lots 19 and 20, concession 1 in the municipality of South Dundas on behalf of the owner Grant and Alistair Properties Limited. So the purpose of this presentation is to provide an overview of the site and surrounding context, outline the purpose of the proposed development and the required Planning Act applications, and as well as to gather feedback from the public and members of the council and respond to any questions to help inform the development process. So to begin, the site is located immediately east of the Iroquois urban settlement area and is currently located within the rural area of South Dundas. The site formerly had the civic address of 10984 County Road 2 prior to a severance application, which had the effect of severing off the dwelling along the County Road 2 frontage. The site is bound by County Road 2 to the south and the CN Railway main line to the north, with Highway 401 located just north of the railway tracks. The site is just over 13 hectares in area and is largely undeveloped, save and except for a garage, which is located in proximity to the County Road 2 frontage. The site was historically used for agricultural purposes until approximately the early 1980s. And since that time, vegetation has grown across central and northern portions of the property, while the southern portion remains largely clear. Although not depicted on this image, a watercourse traverses the site and connects to a wetland south of County Road 2. Next slide, please. So looking at the surrounding area, it can be observed once again that the site is immediately adjacent to the existing Iroquois settlement area. The site is located roughly 1 kilometer from the Iroquois Commercial District, where a range of commercial and public service uses are located, including a shopping plaza, schools, a library, as well as some employment uses. There are also numerous parks and recreational uses which are present within the Iroquois settlement area, And notably, rural land uses, including rural residential dwellings, are located south and east of the site, outside of the Iroquois settlement area boundary, fronting along County Road 2 and County Road 16. Next slide, please. So the site is currently designated rural district on Schedule A2 of the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry official plan. The rural district designation is intended to accommodate a variety of uses that are appropriate for the rural location, including a limited amount of residential development. Notably, lands immediately to the west of the site are located within the Iroquois settlement area are designated residential district on Schedule A2B. Excuse me. The residential district designation is intended to permit a full range of housing types and neighborhood-serving uses within designated settlement areas. An official plan amendment is required to expand the urban settlement area boundary to include the site and redesignate the site to permit urban residential uses. Next slide, please. So the site is currently zoned rural in the municipality of South Dundas zoning bylaw. The rural zone permits a broad range of rural-oriented uses, which generally require larger lot areas. These include agricultural uses, as well as limited residential and commercial development. Within the Iroquois urban settlement areas, many properties are zoned to accommodate urban residential uses serviced by municipal infrastructure. A zoning bylaw amendment is required to permit urban residential uses and establish provisions to appropriately regulate future development. Next slide, please. So moving on to the proposed development. At this time, the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment proposes to permit urban residential uses on the site. While no development is proposed through these applications, if approved, this will enable the development of an urban residential subdivision in the future. To illustrate the potential development which could be accommodated on this site, a conceptual plan of subdivision has been prepared in support of the applications, which consist of a mix of ground-oriented dwelling units in the form of single and semi-detached dwellings that are intended to be fully serviced by municipal water and wastewater infrastructure. The images on this slide are examples of homes previously developed by the applicant in other subdivisions and represent a built form which is anticipated in the future on the site. Next slide, please. So this slide here illustrates the conceptual plan of subdivision submitted in support of the application. Notably, an entrance is proposed along the north side of County Road 2, where the garage currently exists, as well as an internal loop roadway to provide access to each residential lot. An east-west road is also proposed to offer future connections to adjacent residential development in the future. Sidewalks are also intended to be provided to ensure safe pedestrian access and connectivity. The proposed subdivision is intended to accommodate a total of 140 lots, consisting of a mix of single and semi-detached dwellings distributed throughout the site. Each semi-detached lot will accommodate 2 dwellings, resulting in a total of 140 semi-detached units, while each single detached lot will contain 1 dwelling unit for a total of 70 single detached dwelling units. This results in an overall total of 210 residential units across the site. And notably, a draft plan of subdivision application will establish the detailed lot layout at a future phase in the development process. Next slide, please. So the proposed official plan amendment will amend Schedule A2B of the official plan to include the site within the Iroquois urban settlement area boundary and redesignate the site from rural district to residential district. This will have the effect of permitting urban residential uses on this site and enable the development of a future residential subdivision. Next slide, please. So when considering an application to expand a settlement area, specific policies must be addressed to determine the appropriateness of the proposed expansion. The 2024 provincial planning statement outlines criteria that must be satisfied when considering a settlement area expansion. Key criteria applicable to this application include demonstrating that there is sufficient land to accommodate a range and mix of uses, as well as protecting prime agricultural areas from development and ensuring that there is adequate existing or planned infrastructure to service the site. The official plan similarly outlines criteria for settlement expansions, which are generally consistent with the provincial planning statement. The proposed application has been reviewed against these criteria, and based on this review, the proposed expansion satisfies the applicable requirements. Next slide, please. So a zoning bylaw amendment is also required to rezone the site from the rural zone to the residential second density zone to permit urban residential uses on the site and to establish provisions to appropriately regulate future development. While this slide references a site-specific R2 zone, it was previously considered that a site-specific zoning relief would be required to permit reduced lot frontages in areas. To accommodate the proposed housing typologies. However, based on discussions with planning staff, it has been determined that site-specific relief may not be necessary as the standard R2 zone provisions are appropriate for the intended uses and built form. A holding overlay has also been proposed by staff related to servicing, which will remain in place until the municipality is satisfied that adequate municipal water and wastewater infrastructure can be provided. Next slide, please. So technical studies have been prepared in support of the applications to assess the potential impacts of the proposed development as outlined before you. Additional, more detailed technical studies will be prepared as part of a future draft plan of subdivision application to further evaluate the impacts of the proposed development. Next slide, please. So in summary, the proposed applications will facilitate the future development of a residential subdivision on the site by expanding the Iroquois urban settlement area boundary, as well as redesignating and rezoning the site to permit urban residential uses. This supports future delivery of ground-oriented housing typologies that are compatible with the surrounding area while expanding housing options within Iroquois and the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry more broadly. While also making efficient use of land and infrastructure. The proposal is consistent with the provincial planning statement and conforms to the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry official plan and satisfies the applicable criteria when considering settlement area boundary expansions in the the provincial planning statement and the official plan. As such, the proposal represents good land use planning. Next slide, please. So thank you for your attention, and my colleague Alicia and I would now be pleased to welcome any questions from members of council or the public in attendance. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Day. So before we take public questions, I'll ask the council team if they have any questions or comments of the planners. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. Thank you for the presentation, and I apologize. I just kind of missed something as I was writing something down. So I just want to confirm on the single detached dwellings, you are looking for a reduction of lot frontage from 18 to 15?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So we were initially we did request relief for the lot frontage for the single detached dwellings. However, in staff's review of our planning report, he did note that that there is a provision in the R2 zone of the zoning bylaw, which specifies that that the R1 zone provisions, which permit a larger frontage and area, can essentially be applied to the R2 zone. So no specific relief will be required for the lot frontage and area for the single detached dwellings.
Thank you, and I apologize for missing that. Like I said, I was just writing some notes down.
Very good. Okay. Any members of the public like to speak at this time? Can you stop? Can you just, we'll just get you a microphone here. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
I just have a question. During the report and all the pictures, there's no mention of the creek that runs through the property. Would that be tunneled underneath the property? None of the properties show the creek going through that property. That's my question. And also question number 2 is, one of my, I have a friend on number 2, just three or four houses down. They built a new house next door, but they were told there were no more driveways allowed to be put on number 2 because it's on a curve. So the new property next door had to use his driveway as an entrance onto number 2. They were told you can't add any more driveways. So how would that affect this property?
Very good.
Thank you.
I'll let either the planner or Peter Young, you want to answer the Conservation Authority comments on the creek or the municipal drain?
I can answer the second one. Though.
Sure. Very good.
To the chair, and thank you for the comment or the question. I much appreciated. With respect to the water course, which is present on the property, we do acknowledge its presence. It is a designated water course in the official plan. At this time, this application is just notably to an official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment to determine if the site is appropriate to accommodate residential uses. So at a future date, a future draft plan of subdivision will be will be submitted to the municipality, and at which time that will incorporate detailed technical studies, including an environmental impact assessment, which will identify any natural heritage features which are present on the site, including the water course, and determine any appropriate mitigation measures to protect that feature in its ecological functions if present at that time. So essentially, I would just want to mention that that's kind of going to come in the future application when we assess that feature. Thank you.
And that was included in the Conservation Authority's comments at the start, right, Mr. Young? That would be considered as part of the process.
Yes, and the counties as well looks at we do environmental review as well for anything like that. Yeah.
And the second part of the question of the entranceways.
Yes, so that's an excellent question. One of the reasons there's different rules is that there's different rules for a subdivision road versus that's engineered quite wide, has to go through all these extra steps versus a single lot severance. And the other reason would be that there's different rules if it's in the town boundary or not in the town boundary. So if the town boundary expands, it's a little bit more flexible to get an entrance. So that's kind of what council would be considering, at least on the north side. If the boundary expands, then basically it's assuming that, the urban area will be closer, there'll be subdivisions, cars will start slowing down naturally as they do at other parts, and maybe the speed limit might be adjusted at some point once the development's more underway. So that's kind of the difference between probably a previous severance where it wasn't allowed and this where it could be allowed because they do that extra engineering, and then they also would be part of the town boundary because right now it's right on the edge.
There's no other plan for a second entrance to this property?
I think it can only really fit one probably, although there's the property that's right beside it. That's also in the boundaries, so that it'd have to be determined what the best spot is between those two properties too, because they're relatively close together as well.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Appreciate it. It is a very popular topic at County Council. Entranceways, ribbon development, the speed limits. We continue to have bylaws come forward and conversations about that for sure. So excellent question, though. Appreciate it. Councillor Smith?
Yeah, through you, Mary Broad. Sorry, the gentleman in the back, I've been writing down everybody's names that's been speaking tonight, and I missed your name. What was your?
Sorry, Muncaster.
Muncaster. Okay. Mike.
11143 Brisdale Boulevard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One other question I had, sorry. What is the allowance between the railway and the property? How much property would they have to give up to put a barrier between the railway?
Go ahead, Scott.
Through Mr. Chair, thank you for the question. I do want to acknowledge as well that the Canadian National Railway is a commenting agency on this application. So they have provided us with technical comments and will also be circulated as part of a future draft plan of subdivision application. We haven't actually been informed of the formal railway kind of, I guess you say, buffer space or setback. However, whatever setback is determined to be required from the CN Railway, specifically through the draft plan of subdivision application, will be incorporated into the design of the subdivision, as well as with any kind of mitigation measures pertaining to rail safety, as well as to noise and vibration for the kind of the sensitive uses being the which are going to be introduced, which would be the dwellings. So yes, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. So my question is more for actually the county planner. So through you, Mayor, to Mr. Young. My question is when we expand the urban boundary, then that expands our ability to obviously build more housing, serviced housing, I should say. My question then becomes there's quite a few other services that also will rely on, that will also need to expand. I'm thinking schools, daycares, things we've had conversations about at this table previously. Does this information, when that boundary gets expanded, get circulated to the school board as well for comment, as well as like kids traveling back and forth, because we have the conversation about the school buses and they potentially might not be traveling as far, and this is pretty close to the schools. So just wondering if this is circulated through them as well.
Director?
Yes, so at the official plan and zoning level, they don't tend to comment too much, but they'll be circulated. The subdivision process is where they really start to get involved. But the other thing we do is we have annual meetings with them where we'll show all the approved and proposed developments and kind of give them a map of here's where the future could be. So in addition to getting the application, they'll also be, we also are with their annual meeting where we can kind of share this is what's coming up in the future and just make sure everyone's talking to each other.
Yeah, it also would be electrification as well. These, as well, hydro, Reno St. Lawrence is also a consideration. Yeah, supply hydro. Councillor Smith?
Yeah. Oh, through you, Mayor Broad. I had my mic on the whole time. I didn't know. Just getting back to that water course, is that a designated municipal drain or is it just simply a water course?
Alicia?
Hello. Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, so the water course is designated in the official plan as a water course. Like that is its designation on the schedule. The South Nation Conservation Authority did provide us some very preliminary comments so far, again, based on kind of the high level application. And what they had noted in their response was that because of the size of that water course, and I will say I'm a planner, so I'm not so well versed in the hydraulic function of it, but they basically were talking about how the size of it doesn't necessarily warrant a full 1 to 100 year storm review, in the sense that it doesn't trigger that next level of review per se. However, when we go do the actual draft plan of subdivision application, when we're looking at channeling, if necessary, stormwater management, it may be that they review it at that point and then have more regulations to inform us of.
Very good, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Excellent, okay. Seeing none, I have a motion. Let the public meeting to consider be closed at 6:48 p.m. Moved by, no, that's okay, Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. Okay, this concludes our public meetings for Wednesday, March 18th. We'll continue with our regular agenda. Thanks for everybody in attendance and everybody that's watched. And thank you to our delegation tonight. Item 6, under delegations and petitions, we have a presentation tonight from Tomlinson. It's too bad that you were gonna present in front of a lot of people a few minutes ago. For those watching online, the entire council chamber was full of people tonight for the public meeting. So, welcome, gentlemen, tonight. And I think we have a slideshow that we're gonna put up as well. Yeah. Stay tuned. Very good. A lot of PowerPoints tonight. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Appreciate you guys having us here tonight. My name is Rory Hughes. I'm a Special Projects Manager and Engineer. I'm with Tomlinson, and this is my colleague, Rob Pierce. He's our Senior Planner, VP of Planning and Development. So tonight, sorry, maybe just let me move this over a little bit. Tonight we're seeking your input for a conveyor crossing, basically this easement across Lakeshore Drive. I've got a few slides tonight that we'll just touch on. Basically, I want to touch on just who we are as Tomlinson, what we've been working on site, and just a bit of a look at this proposed project. So as some of you, I'm sure, are aware, R.W. Tomlinson is a large infrastructure provider here in Eastern Canada. I'm sure many of you see our red and white pickup trucks. We've been in business for over 70 years in the region, and for the past 30 years, we've been in the marine aggregate shipping business. We've got a large commercial dock up in Bruce Mines in Northern Ontario, where we ship aggregates out of every year. And over the past few years, we've been expanding that marine logistics business with a dock in Morrisburg, an ownership stake in several Great Lakes vessels, and most recently in 2022, the acquisition of Universal Terminals in Morrisburg. Since then, we've been working to improve that site, work on our business plans, engage with local stakeholders, as well as the PLC. So in terms of our facility improvements, one of the key goals here is to improve the functionality and capability of the site. That's fundamental to expanding our business and creating new opportunities. So in addition to the millions of dollars and several years worth of work that we've done remediating impacted soils, we're gearing up to make a similar investment to improve the wharf face of the facility here. That improvement will allow us to engage with a wider variety of vessels, leading to a wider variety of goods that can be handled through the terminal. We've been working with the last few years with the provincial and federal regulatory agencies to get our permits in place to build that. We're hoping to see those permits in place this summer, with construction starting next winter 2027. So we're excited to be building this facility. And a big part of logistics terminals and hubs is being able to be competitive. We know that there's other facilities in the region, and we need to be able to compete and find some advantage for them. So what we've identified early on is a necessity to sort of improve the connection between the dock itself and the lands to the north. As it is right now, there's a road, a little driveway that crosses Lakeshore Drive, and over the past years of this dock, material's been shifted north and south of Lakeshore by truck up to County Road 2. While that's functional, it's not particularly letting us take advantage of the properties to the north, and so we're looking for a more efficient means to do that. So what we've identified is a conveyor crossing Lakeshore Drive, basically help us move bulk goods to and from the dock to those adjoining lands to the north, which ultimately will help us grow the business and reduce truck traffic crossing Lakeshore Drive. So here's a early view of a conceptual of a conveyor crossing above Lakeshore Drive. At this point, we're looking at an elevated crossing to help shift goods back and forth, bulk materials. And as we have experience with actually another conveyor project up in Northern Ontario, we're well aware that the engineering and design costs of a project like this are significant. So for us, before we go too far down that path, we're looking to basically seek council's input on the agreements, easements, basically to facilitate this crossing across Lakeshore Drive. We know that there's more to this process. There's more to come in terms of applications and follow-ups. There's more steps to this process, and we'll continue to engage with council and stakeholders as our business plans advance. So for us, we see this as a great opportunity, not only for Tomlinson, but I think, in terms of marine transports and logistics hubs, they have a significant impact to the community. Basically helping forge stronger connections to other markets, whether they be domestic or foreign. And to us, a great example of this was this fall when we were able to help with the soy plant that was built here in Morrisburg. We were able to handle a large piece of equipment through the dock in Morrisburg and deliver that to the final site in the town of Morrisburg itself. So to me, that's sort of a great example of how these logistics terminals and hubs can have a magnifying effect on community, on the businesses within the region. So for us, we see this as an exciting opportunity, and we really look forward to growing with the community. Thank you.
Thanks, Rory, and thanks, Rob, for attending tonight. Just a couple of comments or questions. Kind of a side note, because just mentioned earlier, the remediation of the soil on the site, that was really important to our community, and we've talked earlier about how important groundwater is and contamination. So thank you for Tomlinson for doing that work. That's muchly appreciated as part of your whole process. But maybe you could talk just briefly, because you mentioned it, about the PLC, and I know the deputy mayor made comment as well, just what that is for the public's knowledge.
So sorry, that's a three-letter acronym that I got caught up with there.
Yeah, no worries.
So the PLC stands for a Public Liaison Committee. So that's something that Tomlinson, where we basically engage with some members of council, as well as some neighboring residents, basically to engage and share information on a regular basis. Basically seek input, a bit of an informal process to just stay engaged with the local residents, as well as other stakeholders within the community.
Very good. Nothing to add on that, Deputy Mayor?
No, not directly.
Not directly. Sure, okay. Questions?
Of course. Thank you. Actually, not really a question, Rory, but I know we talked about it at our PLC meetings. I think there's a couple things that are very important to the local residents and residents abroad is noise and dust. And if you could kind of walk us through your current operation of offloading the salt and what you guys need to do to get it to the north side, and versus what are the mitigation measures and how, hopefully, the positive impacts a conveyor belt will have in terms of noise and dust control?
Sure. Thanks, Mark. So as it stands right now, the salt is basically offloaded onto the dock, typically by vessel, and then we'll rehandle that. And then as that, basically tarp it, and then as winter arrives, we'll start shipping that material out. So right now that's done by loader, gets loaded onto trucks. And at the end of the day, there's all these trucks basically end up going back and forth across Lakeshore Drive as they head up towards the scale where they'll turn on to County Road 2 onto their ultimate destinations. So really our view of having this conveyor is that you can, with a conveyor, it's sort of a fixed asset as opposed to trucks and loaders, which are moving around, tend to have a bit of a bigger area of impact, whereas with a conveyor, it's a little bit easier almost to contain the impacts of noise and dust. And again, it's something that we'll continue to evaluate as we develop the project.
Yeah, and I tend to agree. I mean, we talked about that, and I mean, once you got to move your salt piles once or twice on site, and then once there's no salt pile, and then you got dust that's on on the cement or the asphalt, and then you're trying to mitigate with whatever water trucks or whatever you're trying to do for the dust control. So I think there is a benefit, or it sounds like there is a benefit to a conveyor belt system. And then the other one, and we talked about this, and is the appearance, right? I mean, recognizing it is along our waterfront, it is along residential, although recognizing that the land is industrial, but you got residential. So there was a couple comments that I think Councillor Avino and I made is about appearances, and I really think if we were to move forward with this, you know, cladding, branding, not red and white per se, maybe more blue and white or something like that. But you know what I'm saying, like art form, just to make the appearance pleasant for people that are living there and people that are visiting South Dundas. So if you can kind of comment on that, that'd be great.
You want to jump in, Rob?
No, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, obviously what we presented is a pretty early concept. And, you know, I'm an engineer and we typically start with getting the functional piece done. And so, you know, at a high level design, yes, that's what we've done at this point. But yes, Mark, I do agree that, you know, there's certainly more to be done with aesthetics in this case. And that is something that we'll continue to look at and continue to work towards something that I think we can all be proud of.
And now I have, subsequent to the planners and maybe to the CAO, I mean, we're talking about encroachment. I mean, I know it's above grade, but we are talking about encroachment in our right-of-ways. What type of permitting agreements, easements, access agreements, all that stuff? What would be involved with allowing such a conveyor belt across the road?
I'll start and then I'll maybe look to Peter to add anything. So from my experience in my municipal career, something like this, generally we can achieve the desired results through an encroachment agreement between the proponent and the municipality. And then so things that, you know, comments we're hearing from council tonight, we can make sure if it logically makes sense in such an encroachment agreement, we can include. And really one of the main reasons why we wanted to have Tomlinson provide this information to council this evening is to get that input and feedback about things that are important to council if this was to proceed. So just for council's information, we've already started to work on a draft encroachment agreement that we do want to get in front of council, because from where I sit, that's really the first step, because it doesn't, you know, it essentially provides that permission to aerially be across Lakeshore Drive. And then from there, Tomlinson can start to make the rest of their plans and work through those applications and processes they need to. So in terms of a formal easement, I'll maybe throw to Peter whether that's something that, or a legal easement is maybe the better way to say it. Is that something that hasn't been on my radar, but I don't know what Peter's thoughts would be.
It's possible if the agreement, I guess, would be more permanent than maybe an easement would be requested, versus an encroachment agreement can be taken off or it could be subject to so many years. So that's a possibility. We have one or two private ones that are for someone's driveway across a closed road, that type of thing. So it is possible. The other discussions we just been having is, depending on design, is this a structure and zoning and building code and maybe a 0 meter setback through minor variance, or does it count as infrastructure? And we're having ongoing discussions on that. But it's definitely something that's done in, as Tomlinson said, in other municipalities as well.
Okay, very good. Sorry, I don't mean to monopolize, but we are in the PLC. The other thing I'd like you to talk about a little bit is the dock system itself. And we know that you've done some in-water works. I think it's just for sake of information, what mitigations have you had to do in water to create more habitat or whatever? I think that you talked about that, and that was very interesting when you presented it.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So we actually haven't started construction on the dock yet, but as part of that process, basically the Department of Fisheries is interested in ensuring that, you know, when you're building into the water, that there's habitat compensation. So part of that is basically building a shoal that'll be in the bay. That you know, through, I'm not the biologist, but the biologists are telling me that'll help support local fish populations, and particularly the American eel.
Thank you. No more questions.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad. So you have to forgive me, my conveyor knowledge is pretty limited. Is going underneath Lakeshore Drive even an option?
So, I mean, we've had a look at it at this point. We did install groundwater wells on either side of the road a couple years ago, really just to see what the water level was like, and kind of not surprisingly that close to the river. The groundwater elevation is quite high, so that would certainly impact the ability to go under the road.
Very good. Good question. Yeah. Councilor Ward.
Thanks, Mayor. So just my feedback on this, first off is thank you for making the investment in South Dundas. You've taken a site that everyone knows was a brownfield, and you've made a big investment, a Cinderella story almost. So, and thank you also for being involved in helping other businesses grow here as well. I think that's a huge asset as well to our municipality. With regards to the conveyor belt, I think like through encroachment agreements, I've seen this before. Like I think that it's something that would benefit our community and reduce truck traffic and dust, which is, from my understanding, what most of the comments are. So I'm in full support of that if that's what staff's looking for as feedback, and I'm excited to see what you do next. Thanks.
Thanks, Councilor. Very good. So I think support from the council team to move ahead and continue the application process and details that we need to make final decisions. Well, thank you. Well, thanks, Mr. Hughes, Mr. Pierce. Thank you very much for your presentation. Any final comments before you leave? Oh, you're good. Rob's going to say something.
And so, Mr. Mayor, I just want to make sure Roy doesn't get too much pressure put on him. Thanks very much. I have to, I'd like to make a couple of points. It's been very, very, very welcoming and supportive in terms of working with staff, working with the members of the PLC and the community. So it is nice to be in a community where, where we can see that there's benefits that are going to be coming as part of this project. And then, Rory had mentioned about a dock and a facility up in Bruce Mines. Rory worked quite hard on an application that went forward to the federal government 2 years ago. Then last week we were awarded a significant grant from the Federal Department of Transportation, which went to the electrification of our ship loading system, which is essentially the same conveyor that we're looking to install here. We bought an over 4 kilometer long conveyor from northern BC and trucked it to Ontario, and half went to Bruce Mines and half came here. So we're just finishing work and installing the one in Bruce Mines. And, when you look at the benefit that we are seeing there, which we think we'll see similar benefits here in terms of conveyance of materials, the ability to do more, and also the safety, which has come up today. Certainly the community there and the levels of government have all seen that benefit through that project. So, and we proceeded in a very similar fashion there, where we looked at how do we get across, because on that one we actually went across Highway 17, the Trans-Canada, so a significant amount of traffic there. So establish that first, and then, as Rory had said, there's a lot of detailed work that goes into the next pieces as to the onloading and offloading and movement of material. So this is really a necessary first step. So really do appreciate the time to be able to speak to yourselves this evening. It's nice to be able to come and put this in front of you tonight.
So, thanks, Rob.
Yeah,
Deputy?
can I just ask a favor, because I don't think I'm going to be traveling up that far in the near future. Is there a way that you can maybe record your operations there, just to give us a feel of how it actually works? I mean, I'm trying to, maybe there's some privacy thing, not copyright, but privacy laws or whatever, but it'd just be nice to, when you get the video and you can actually see it just kind of helps. I don't know if that's an option or not.
We certainly can. Like we do have drone videos when things have gone out on social media. It is still under construction.
Yeah, understood.
So it won't be functional until some point maybe later this year.
Okay. Still, be nice to kind of capture that a little bit, right?
Well, maybe your next vacation could be to the north. So
Never know.
Never know. Thanks. Thanks, Mr. Hughes. Thanks, Mr. Pierce.
Now, are you guys going to stay for the rest of the meeting? No. No pressure.
Okay, we'll move on to action request 7A. TS 2026 04 RFT number TS 2603, 1-ton 4x4 cab and chassis. Director of Roads, Mr. Hyman.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Unfortunately, I do not have a PowerPoint for this presentation, so we're just going to wing it. So in front of you, you'll find the results of a 1-ton 4x4 crew cab and chassis without the box. This was a tender that was issued through bids and tenders. It's in joint work with North Dundas. They were in need of a vehicle as well as we were, so between myself and Jamie Cheney to the north, we collectively went ahead with this tender to help reduce administrative costs. So, like I said, it's for this tender, it was advertised through bids and tenders in our local newspaper and advertised on the municipal website. 8 companies submitted bids. LaPlante Chevrolet Buick GMC Ltd. submitted the lowest compliant bid, and the summary you'll find on the next page. I'd just like to make note that in the recommendation, you are recommending the price for both trucks, as I was the one who issued the tender. However, the municipality of South Dundas will only be responsible for $64,353.75, which is our half of the tendered price. Within that amount, $85,000 was budgeted at budget time for the purchase of this new vehicle. Additional work required will be in approximately $8,000 as we're going to transfer our dump box and the hydraulic pump from the truck that we presently own on truck 95, and that will be added to this new cabin chassis for the completed unit. So I can answer any questions which you may have at this time.
Well, that's very good. And thanks for working with our partners to get preferred pricing. Questions, comments? Now seeing none, I have a motion to resolve that the Council of South Dundas award joint tender TS 2603 with the Township of North Dundas for the purchase of 2 1-ton 4x4 cab crew and chassis to LaPlante Chev Buick GMC Limited in the total amount of $128,707.50 plus HST, and that the Director of Transportation and Clerk be authorized to sign all necessary documents to give an effect to the contract. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Sticking with Director Hyman, B, TS 2026-05, RFT TS 07, purchase of a new backhoe.
So thank you, Mayor and Council. So in front of you, you'll find the results of the second tender which was issued for the purchase of a new backhoe. So during budget deliberations, I presented unit 78. Sorry, I have unit 79 down on the report. It is a John Deere backhoe, which was been identified for replacement as per the municipality of South Dundas's fleet replacement plan, and will be sold once ownership is taken of the new unit. So as council may recall, during budget deliberations, there was a request for alternate considerations. At that point, it was to for one, purchase outright, attain pricing for a 5-year extended warranty, 5-year oil changes, and or 5-year full service lease with a buyout at the end of the 5 years. So pricing was attained through LAS, which is the local authority services, or canoe procurement, as people are aware. So with going through canoe, we did not have to advertise through our local, because pricing has already been attained through canoe, and they ranked them on serviceability. So all the municipality or myself had to do was send an email request of the item that we were looking for features. And I did that. I sent emails to Case Equipment, John Deere, Caterpillar, and New Holland. JCB, who is being a product sold at Delta Equipment in Winchester, they reached out and asked if they could provide pricing and be submitted through the Delta Power Equipment program, because they are a member of Canoe. The pricing that you'll see is in the box provided. So you'll see the purchase price. That's the purchase for outright purchase. You'll see the 5-year extended warranty, the 5-year full service price, and the 5-year full service lease with the buyout. So the municipality has chosen to go with Delta Power upon your approval for a purchase. and for the 5-year extended warranty. Our in-house mechanic can do the oil changes, and we feel that that would be a better price, beneficial price, than going with the 5-year full-service lease with the buyout at the end. So the 2026 budget included the purchase of one new backhoe totaling $201,573. The net cost, excluding the extended warranty, will be $203,825, which would be a difference of $2,252. This would be funded through the Fleet Reserve program. So I can answer any questions which you may have at this time.
Well, thanks, Director, and thanks for getting the lease information, because that was a request. Too bad the pencils weren't sharper on that one, but thank you for taking the time to do that. Councilor Vino.
As you can imagine, I have a couple questions. First one, through you, Mayor, to the Director Hyman. What is, I don't have the fleet schedule in front of me, but what is our typical replacement schedule for a backhoe? It's more than 5 years, I presume? What is it?
Through you, Mayor Broad, it's 10 years for equipment.
So then we have 5 years where we're out of warranty and we're on the hook. The 5-year full service lease is I don't know what the terms of how this was structured, but is the buyout mandatory, or is there an option to give it back without a buyout at the 228 and restart a new lease at 5 years?
So through you, Mayor Broad, exactly. We could return it and essentially start over and just keep making that payment.
So the purchase price purchase price with the 5-year extended warranty is $200,000. 5-year full service lease less the buyout is $228,000. So that's $28,000 over 5 years. Is what I'm looking at. What I'm trying to get to here is, my fear is, what is the 5 years after warranty going to cost us? It's probably going to be more than $28,000. That's typically whenever we start to see bigger issues on those types of machines. So, like, the 5-year lease where you give it up, so you pay your $28,000 over the 5 years, then you give it up and go on to the next 5-year lease. You don't risk the repairs that we're going to see in the 5 years after the extended warranty. So I guess like this might be a bigger.
Yeah, but in this, I know where you're going, but in this case, at the end of the 5 years, we would own the backhoe, and if we sold it for $10,000 and bought another one, it'd still be cheaper than that lease price, would it not? So at the end of the 5 years, we would have invested $183,000 and have a backhoe to trade or sell. Or at the end of the 5 years, we have nothing when we spent $228,000.
We've invested $200,000 because we paid for the extended warranty as well. So it's a $28,000 difference delta. Anyways, I guess this is a bigger conversation, but I'm okay with the $183,000. It's just I fear for the second, and this is it's just the way we do our business. Is I always fear for what comes outside of warranty. If you can understand what I'm saying. It's just whenever you go with the full service lease, you know that's what it is. That's what it is. You're locked into it, and then you don't have to worry about any what ifs. But if this is the way the municipality's been doing it for a long time, I know that. So,
yeah, I just think in this case the lease is too expensive, because over 10 years we'd be paying $460,000, whereas it'd be $200,000 plus whatever repairs we might have in that 5 years.
Yeah, I think it's
right.
I don't know.
Deputy?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad, it actually is a very interesting discussion, because what we really don't know is our repair costs, and at what point do we have to pull the trigger on getting a new backhoe. So in year 7, we may spend $30,000 in repairs, and then go in year 8, well, we better go and buy a new backhoe, which then we've paid for the initial backhoe of $183,000 or 203, plus potentially repair costs, and then turn around and spend another $200,000 for another backhoe with the same warranty period. So I kind of see Councillor Vino's point here on this, and I'm not convinced it is more expensive. I don't know. This is why we want the committee of the whole meeting, I think, to kind of to discuss all of this. I mean, I'm okay with the purchase, but I think it is a bigger discussion for sure, and I haven't had time to do the matrix on it. So, yeah, I mean,
Dr. Hyman?
Yeah, thank
Through
you.
you, Mayor Broad, I think just to add a little bit more context to this, that if we were a full-out construction company utilizing this thing 8 hours a day, every day of the week, obviously, I think your route would be the plan to go. 5-year full service, roll it over, get another one. We keep the process going. This backhoe predominantly is going to be used to load trucks in the wintertime and go out and aid with Parkinson Rec in the summer, moving some topsoil, helping clean debris out of the ditch. It might turn a wheel 2 to 3 times a week in the summertime. So I think if you put that all together, I definitely agree with where you're coming from. Sometimes the full service is the way to go, where we need to maybe have a more valid discussion on it. But for the operations that we do within the municipality, I had a hard time weighing the risk versus reward when it comes to the operations of what the municipality does. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad, just to follow up to that, approximately how many hours a year would we put on a backhoe?
Through you, Mayor Broad, we put on roughly about 1,000 hours a year.
Okay. Yeah, so at the end of the 10 years, like we're talking 10,000 hours, which is enough. If I remember right, the backhoe that we're replacing it was over 8,000 on it. Yeah, so it's enough. But another question I had was, what brand of backhoe was this for? It was not for the JCB, it was for a New Holland, or was it for a case?
Sorry, through you, Mayor Broad. So the tendered price that you're receiving for Delta Power, that's for a JCB.
It is for a JCB.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they have one on site back in Winchester. We went back and looked at it, and functionality will do the job.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
Good.
Motion to resolve that Council Municipality of South Dundas award tender TS 2604 to purchase one backhoe in the amount of $183,800 plus HST from Delta Power, and the council authorize the purchase of a 5-year, 5,000-hour warranty for the unit in the amount of $16,500 plus HST, and that the Director of Transportation and the clerk be authorized to sign all necessary documents to give effect to the contract. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Okay, boards and committees. South Branch Community Fund Review. Councillor Ward.
Thanks, Mayor. So we met March 10th and we went over, actually we got quite a few applications this year. So the committee met and they looked through all the applications. So some good news coming to South Dundas is the South Dundas through Director Jansen applied to that fund for the Matilda Hall roof. And the committee saw great value in that and actually awarded, I believe it was the 20,000, looking to the clerk, yeah, so 20,000 for that project from that fund. So that's money that I don't think originally we budgeted for, so that's good. Hopefully cutting some taxation burden there. So thank you to them for that. And then the remaining 10,000, because there's 30,000 in the fund, went to Matilda Rec to do their free events that they do for the general public, and then also some of their general maintenance on their outdoor rink and painting pickleball. Right, sorry. I don't play, so I'm not quite versed on it. Anyways, those will come back as a formal recommendation to council, but that's where the committee met and discussed, and then we kind of discussed how moving forward we want to launch that next year, and then Treasury was able to give a really good update to the committee about how that financing works year over year. So much appreciated the staff input on that meeting as well.
Well, thank you very much. RSL board meeting. So I had a board meeting last night. In the next meeting minutes, there will be a full documentation on consent agenda items, but just some highlights from the meeting. Continue to talk about all the major developments, including the long-term care home in Prescott and the grocery store in Prescott. And obviously, Valcroft continues to move forward. Talked about capacity, so the major capital project coming forward, and you'll probably hear this a few times, is at Iroquois. So that'll be coming in the next year or so. Continue to work on their fleet replacement, PCB transformer replacements ongoing. Obviously, we've been working a lot with Pulse and the new requirements for potentially coming from the Ontario government, and that's due here shortly, the final outcome of that. our AGM this year is going to be held in Iroquois. Date and exact location to be confirmed, but we're up to host this year, so that'll be good. That we do have new auditors this year, so the auditing by KPMG, and that is ongoing. So we'll have an audited financial statement coming up soon, and then we'll see what our dividends will be. Cost of service review. So in the electrification world, every 5 years, every electrical company can apply to the Ontario government for rates and what the rates will be. So we're just wrapping up here for the end in 2026 for new rates for 2027. So that's ongoing work. Yeah, and that's the highlights from the Rideau St. Lawrence board meeting. Iroquois Waterfront Committee.
Yeah, just due to the weather, last week it got deferred until next week.
Okay, very good. South Nation. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you. So South Nation had their AGM a few weeks ago. So elected a new board at South Nation. So we have, so Steve Densham has been the chair for the past 2 years, which is the maximum time you're allowed to be the chair. So the new chair is Deputy Mayor Adrian Winans from Augusta Township. Steve Densham has moved into the second vice chair role, and the first vice chair is going to be filled by Councillor Catherine Kitts from the City of Ottawa. So the big news at South Nation is the consolidation that's happening amongst the conservation authorities. So I'm sure everybody's heard about that. So we're going to have the Raisin region, South Nation, Rideau Valley, and Mississippi Valley coming together to form one conservation authority. It's going to be called the St. Lawrence River Regional Conservation Authority. Previously, it was to include the Cataraqui region as well, but they decided to move Cataraqui into the Eastern Lake Ontario region. This is going to be about a year-long process starting May of this year and wrapping up hopefully the middle of next year. They're going to be forming a new transition committee, and there's going to be some appointments by the province, going to be headed up by, don't know yet exactly how it's going to work, but it's going to be a group of people who have a lot of experience with like mergers and acquisitions and stuff like that. There's going to be the CAO and one board member from each conservation authority that are going to be sitting on this initial committee to try and just guide them through the process. So all assets, contracts, and employment agreements are going to be transferred over to the new entity. So basically that's guaranteeing everybody that there's going to be no job losses, so they say. The existing conservation authorities are expected to pass their 2027 budgets as normal by December of this year. So now moving forward after that, everything is going to be switching over to, for our area, to the upper tier. So we're assuming that eventually it'll be not in our hands here at this table. It'll be moved over to SD&G counties. Another interesting part is that right now there's currently a rule that 70% of the board members at South Nation and other conservation authorities have to be elected officials, and there are 30% maximum that are allowed to be public appointments. So for us right now at South Nation, we have 2 public appointments. There's Bill Smurl from North Dundas, and there's also Francois Saint-Amour. He's from Prescott Russell Township. So, but there has been no for sure confirmation of whether that is going to continue or not. Present also at the AGM was Jackie Kelly Pemberton. Jackie's been here before to visit us just regarding agriculture topics in the past. She was present at the AGM, and she was asked a question about if there was going to be a caveat on the new board for agriculture representation of any type. And so far, nothing's been mentioned about a specific agriculture representative on any of the boards. And also from last month's meeting, the South Nation acquired some more land around the Leitrim wetland, or like more like the Leitrim boardwalk. So there was land that was donated to them from, it was a developer in the area that owned the land, and they decided they were going to donate a bunch of land. So, so the total holdings that South Nation has now in that area is, I believe it's in excess of 100 acres. So it's almost going right over to Albion Road and down as far south, I believe, is where the Hard Rock Casino is right now. So the running joke at South Nation is that we're going to build a boardwalk to go to the Hard Rock. So, and that's, so that's about all the updates we have from South Nation, so.
Yeah, okay, thanks, thanks, Councillor Smith, appreciate it. Lots of topic in the news about it as well, so appreciate that as well. Moving on to library board meeting. So I had a county library board meeting. We had Rebecca Luck here at our last meeting. She's the director and gave us a great update. So not a whole lot to update. Review statistics and some branch updates. But one thing that I will bring forward at a future meeting is the library board has started a board legacy document, where our board actually captures kind of things that happened over the 4 years, the challenges and achievements we had. And it may be a good idea for some of our committees of council, right, as they turn over into, you know, a new committee of councils, a little bit of the history as opposed to, you know, documented from the board versus the memory of past members or the stats. Yeah, how we got to where we're at or whatever. So yeah, so I'll bring that forward at a future meeting. Could be something we could think about. I found it very interesting. And Director Luck, yeah, did a good job on that. So I'll bring that forward in the future. County council meeting, Deputy Mayor and I were at a couple days ago. Had a planning delegation talking about the Alto high-speed rail proposal, which, you know, doesn't travel through our community, but certainly could affect rail travel and tourism in the future. But obviously lots of talk about that going on. Cass Bridge rehabilitation tender and microsurfacing tender we approved. And then there was a request for using remaining funds, because all of our budgeted items come under budget. And I put forward a motion that we don't spend any of our savings until we know what the 2025 budget is, as well as, you know, we went to well over $1 million in the winter maintenance fees for last year due to a full winter of 25. And 2026 is off to a roaring start as well. So it's going to be some opportunities there. We may need to save a few dollars from winter maintenance. So that was what we talked about at the county council meeting.
Just the other one that we talked about a little bit, and that was mostly from the health unit, was the federal dental plan.
Right.
That they just rolled out, and what we're thinking about at a county level and include all the local municipalities is start to advertise that on our websites, so people can be aware of the plan.
Yeah, right. That's the new family dental plan.
So what they're gonna do is request the health unit provide them with the information, so everybody's not trying to piecemeal it themselves. So just stay tuned on that one.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, just a quick question on the Cass Bridge.
Yeah.
So they did decide to do the half and half.
Yes.
So they're going to do like northbound 1 year, southbound the next
Correct.
year? Is that the way?
Correct.
So they cannot do it all in one construction
Correct.
season?
But it will be fully open in the winter. So both lanes will be open in the winter.
Okay.
So it'll only be one lane in the summer while construction, and then reopened with one new, one old, and then.
Yeah. Okay.
And essentially, it's April to the end of October is the season.
Yeah. Yeah. So that works out. That works out well for all our commuters that won't have to take a major detour. Okay. Morrisburg Waterfront Committee, Councillor Reno?
Yep, through you, Mayor. We met last night, actually. Just going through my agenda here. So the first thing we talked about was the amphitheater. So we do have some big news there. The Cruikshank family has stepped up this year and decided that they'd like to see the amphitheater used a little bit more. So they are helping us and supporting us through 7 concerts this year that are going to be held every other week down at the amphitheater. Full concerts, sound, the whole bit. There's a promoter taking care of it and is going to be doing the marketing and all that kind of stuff for it. It will be donation for this year. There's been talk, what the idea right now is to try and get a sense of, I guess, want and need in the community for the amphitheater and what people would like to see and do and what the attendance will be like and whatnot. There's talk potentially sometime down the road with some with some updates and whatnot, they're doing some more like proper concert events there where it's ticketed and whatnot. But for now, it's just kind of to get a feel for the pulse. So this year, the community can expect 7 full-size concerts down there on what nights? Is it a Friday night deal? Sorry, Saturday nights, and from 5 till 8, I think, or ish. We're working out the details. So that was one big update that we had last night. Earl Baker Park multi-use pad, we're continuing to fundraise for that. We have a pancake breakfast coming up for the Easter egg hunt with Harvest Fest committee back in Williamsburg. So you'll find us there. And moving on from that, this summer we'll be doing our golf tournaments and whatnot again this year for the Bowl Eyes. Director Jansen gave us an update on the capital projects and whatnot for parking and stuff. We don't really have much on the parking, but our signage for and our bylaw, or I don't know what the term we're using for that, the deputy bylaw position that we approved. So they're actively hiring for that, and the signage for all the different waterfronts should be completed and installed by the end of May or June. May, right? Good answer. Moving on, so from our budget of this year, we've talked about the crosswalk, and that's actually looking to be ahead of the Cenotaph project. We thought it would all kind of go as one, but all of the parts and pieces are here for the crosswalk, along with Director Jansen got the quotes for our, I guess, artwork and painting for because it's going to be a memorial crosswalk for remembrance. So that I think is going to go ahead of the Cenotaph project, which is nice. So hopefully get that done early enough for the youth crossing the road this year. It'll be a lit one, just like you see at Tim Hortons and whatnot. I think that's for the most part, that was pretty much the update.
Very good. Couple of comments or additions to that. So the Easter egg hunt coming up at the park. If you saw in the Morrisburg Leader today, or you'll see online, there's an Easter egg of me you'll be able to find. So yeah, so it was kind of hidden in the picture today, but for all the kids out there, you'll be able to maybe find me out there. Yeah, and maybe I'm stealing some of Eric's thunder, but I'm going to say it anyways. MP Duncan informed us a couple of days ago that we've got some federal money for the Cenotaph, so that's going to be coming and officially announced. But he sent us an email on that. So
yeah, just a quick on that. I guess tomorrow night we do have a meeting, our meeting for the Cenotaph at the Legion. So I imagine there'll be more comes out of that.
Maybe that'll be the official announcement of the funding from the federal government. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we, on that note, we did meet. We haven't met since that meeting, but he did announce some other fundraising. So there's a number of businesses within Morrisburg, South Dundas even, that have stepped up in recent days, kind of like 5,000, 10,000 each. So we're steadily getting towards the goal here, where we're kind of at not an impasse, but trying to quantify the in-kind value that we're going to be able to get. And so Thurler Logistics has come on board to do the excavation. So we're trying to figure out where we need to get to with cash, so that based on what we get for in-kind, which they keep coming forward, which is great. Because it is a much more expensive project than was initially anticipated with moving the big monument. And we got an update that night too that the cannons and wheels and such are just about done at their respective restoration projects. So they'll be returning back here in short order as well.
Very good. And I did ask the CAO, and we'll bring this back at a future council meeting, but some of the topics this week is Alcohol and Gaming Commission are changing some of the rules and regs that could affect our parks, your concerts, whatever. I'm not saying either way, but I'm going to ask CAO and Director Jansen will bring back a report just on what that new regulation means to us and what our current bylaws approve or don't approve and yada yada. So at least we can communicate to residents when they ask or want to know about this new announcement from the provincial government. So we'll follow up on that. Excellent update. Thanks. Deputy Mayor.
Just a couple things on that one, and I'm glad you brought that up. I've been listening to some of the newscasts there over the last couple of days on that, and they were talking about how it will affect some festivals, like the Tubi Festival and whatnot. It does sound like it's going to be down low the municipality, and if a Tubi Festival organization does not want to have open people coming in with open booze, that'll be up to them to determine that. So That's
Yeah,
my
we need to know
understanding.
about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's really great that you brought that forward. I was gonna mention that. Just on that crosswalk, so where exactly is that? Remind me where that crosswalk is going again?
It's gonna cross a road
Well, that,
over here.
Done.
Yeah. So it's where the sidewalk comes up between the T-ball diamond and the big ball diamond. It'll cross the road right at the I guess the north end of that, and there'll be a landing on the north side.
Sir James Morrison.
yeah, okay, so you do realize during a baseball game, that thing is gonna be functional 24/7, and I'm sure some of the pitchers are not gonna be very happy about that, so I'm just wondering, you're gonna have some shielding there for, when you're pitching and whatnot?
We can't shield the sun whenever they're pitching.
Very good.
I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, that's good. And last one, Environmental Committee, Councillor Ward.
Thanks, Mayor. So we met yesterday as well. I did have to cut out early for another meeting that we attended as well, but they discussed the terms of reference. So they went over the terms of reference at the first meeting, and then they finalized those terms of reference for their committee at the last meeting. So that'll come to council, so council's aware of their objectives and how they're going to meet them. Talked about rain barrels. Again, I wasn't there for that whole discussion, so I will have to catch up with Mr. Oh, perfect. So, pardon. So, Chris St. Thomas and I will discuss. He was staff rep there. And then they also discussed they just did send their thanks for the additional trees that council approved, and are kind of left it up to the clerk to determine what the best date was with regards to the municipality and timing. And that's pretty much it for now. And then maybe at the next meeting, I'll just have another update because I believe we're going to meet again before
Excellent.
Earth Day.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, number 10, consent agenda. We're at 5 items. Update from the STG Library Board newsletter, February of 2026. Information from Eorn Solgap, February 2026. Resolution Township of Brundell, Lindock, Reagan, Sustainable Waste Management. D, Resolution Township of Papineau Cameron, Ontario Veterinarian College Expansion Enrollment Capacity. And E, Resolution from the Township of North Dumfries, support of Bill 21 Protect Our Food Act. I have a motion, let it resolve that all the items on the consent agenda be received and filed for information purposes. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Discussion items. We have several, and if we want, we could, at the end of maybe the next one, if we want to take a 5-minute break, we can. We can determine that, Deputy Mayor, after the plaza user fee, if we want to take 5. That'll make your call on that one, depending how long the discussion goes. But we'll start off with the first discussion item A, Key Information Report, Archives UEL Report. Clerk LeBon, Director Jansen.
So thank you, Mayor and Council. So unlike Director Hyman, I definitely did fall for the peer pressure. So in front of you, you got a nice little slideshow to follow along with tonight. So tonight we're just going to give a quick little overview on the archives and the UEL and everything that's transpired there in the last 6 months, and also a little bit of a look ahead, a couple action items that staff are looking for a little bit of direction from council on. So looking back, you'll see a quick little timeline here on what sort of transpired, just a little refresher for council. So obviously the North Dundas approached us to terminate the agreement. In October, council recommitted their commitment to continuing with archive services, maintaining the services that we have. In January, that partnership officially ended from the old agreement to where we are right now. So we're still just sort of, everything's been mutually parting ways. So North Dundas has been great to work with. So we've separated the combined assets now between the two parties. And North Dundas is looking at having all of their assets off the property here by about the end of the month. So that's sort of where we're at right now. And then I'll leave it to Clerk LeBrun to give an update on the archives operations.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Broad. So in regards to the archives, obviously council is aware that we continue to operate as normal. There has been a change in the hours that our archivist is there. She's there 12 and a half hours a week as opposed to 23 when we were with North Dundas. But Susan Peters, who's our archivist, continues to provide very excellent, passionate, very enthusiastic service to both municipal staff and also local people who are looking for historical research. So that continues. Some of her main projects are, or some of the main duties that Susan does on behalf of the archives are listed in the report, but some that I really want to point out is finalizing the scanning of the newspapers. That's been a huge undertaking that Susan continues to coordinate on behalf of North Dundas and South Dundas, so we can wrap that up. And another thing that she very proudly talks about is her uploads to the YouTube channel. So there's currently 117 videos right now that have been converted from, I don't even know what they're called, but old-fashioned videos to now digital. So that's been a really big undertaking that Susan's taken with the help of volunteers. So the archives kind of continue to operate as normal. But we want to touch on the United Empire Loyalists. So the UEL also occupy some space at the archives. They are a nonprofit historical and genealogical information, and they specialize in the Loyalists. And this group actually serves all of Eastern Ontario. So they operated as a partner under the Dundas County Archives Agreement, and those costs were shared equally between both municipalities. They continue to occupy the space without a formal lease, as that was kind of dissolved when we dissolved the agreement between the shared services agreement between the two municipalities. So the MOU that we have with them are no longer obsolete. So a new commercial lease is required to formalize their occupancy and just define municipal responsibilities, who's responsible for what. We have had conversations with the UEL. We met them before Christmas time, and they're aware of the report tonight and the discussion that's going to be had. So I know they expressed appreciation for continue to work with them. So that's the update for the UEL.
Perfect. So now we'll switch over to the facility side here in Iroquois. So there's two major facilities that South Dundas operates in the previous village of Iroquois, the town of Iroquois. I'll be honest, I might be forcing the hub name a little bit right now because we're 5 College Streets, too many words. The archives, the Dundas County Archives, isn't exactly a full description of the building anymore. So as council's aware, we are working with Beyond 21 and the Cornwall Youth Wellness Hub. So I'll be honest, we had a call with them earlier today, and we're basically 1 inch away from picking the opening day, but we're back in Seaway here in the coming week, so we're very close to opening there. We're starting to offer some tours and stuff like that, so very excited there. This facility has sort of been vacant for the last little while, and then the other 60% was held by the previous archives agreement. And then when we put in the Youth Wellness Hub, we did hold a little smaller space, kind of 4 old medical clinic rooms. So just on that side of the space, I know council had the chance to sort of look through the drawings that I prepared there. And then the other major facility that we have is the Iroquois Civic Center. This houses the county library right now. Right now we run about 20 to 30 hours of programming out of the Civic Center every single week. And then, as council may remember, in 2022, 2023, we did start, as part of the Parks and Rec Master Plan, kind of the first baby step in the long process of looking at revitalizing that facility. It's a Seaway era building built in 57. So it's coming to the end of its life and definitely needs a little bit of love there. So just starting to plan the next steps there. From there, staff looked into sort of the short-term and long-term goals here with regards to our facilities and the operations that happen in them. So the biggest thing in the short term is just making sure that we have the ability to maintain the services that we already provide, and basically making sure that we can align and optimize our spaces with some of our more long-term goals. So you'll see in here, one of the action items that we're sort of planning out is obviously once North Dundas removes the shelves, we're looking at a little bit more free space, and kind of we need to look in the mirror and see how much space we actually need. There's a lot of stuff in the archives. Where does it all fit? How does the dust settle? It's difficult for us to tell exactly right now, and kind of taking that short-term period to reflect is how I'm going to describe it, and consolidate, get everything together, and then that gives us the ability to look to the long-term plans here and say, okay, we have this much additional space from that, we don't. So just trying to plan out that way. And then item number 2 that I have in here is, as Clerk LeBrun hinted to, is looking at the UEL and the partnership, the agreement, how that goes into the future. Ultimately, we're trying to sort of optimize the space. So the hub is probably a more modern facility that's more ready to be occupied, where the Civic Center, if we start doing work in there, you're going to open up a larger can of worms. It's not as ready to occupy. So that takes us into a couple more of the long-term goals. Here, obviously, there's medium, there's long-term. And there's so many things that can change, whether we have the funding to do everything, whether the community changes. We saw the OPA adjustment today, so obviously we're trying to adapt with the community here at the same time. And I think the long-term goal, the number one thing, is to remain flexible. So here's where staff are kind of presenting the idea of moving the UEL into the Civic Center. That frees up some more space in the building that's a little bit more ready to occupy. So staff have already started, courting some new services to come into that space. Exactly what those services will be determined. But I think once we have that space available in another modern facility that we're starting to see more occupants in, I think we'll be able to grow our services in Iroquois. So that's sort of what staff are hoping to line up there. And then from there, on the infrastructure side, as I mentioned, we took one baby step at the Civic Center. We probably got quite a few more steps. So it's more like the arena where we're planning in 2021, but we're not breaking ground until 2026. It's in that same sort of, when the funding is available, we'll be slowly but surely getting ready for it. So that's some of the long-term goals that we have there. And then just looking at what we're looking for from council today as this discussion item. So any of council's feedbacks on some of these plans that are outlined in the report today and in the presentation, happy to take the feedback and adjust. And, like I said, we're looking to keep it adaptable and flexible here to match the community's needs. And then in the short term, looking for a little bit of feedback with regards to the UEL. So I think in the report that you guys have, there was kind of 3 options outlined: moving them to the Civic Center under a formal lease into that space, opening that door up, or they can remain in their space that they're currently in, reaching a formal lease there, or do we kind of send them off on their own and they lose that sort of partnership? Obviously, they provide a service that's not going to be best for them. Like, we might lose that service in South Dundas if we go that route. So trying to find that right balance. And then in my presentation here, I sort of outlined what the next staff steps would be after that. So we're going to continue to work with North Dundas on finalizing getting all of their material out of there. And then once all their material, shelving, and assets are out, we'll start looking and consolidating our space to see long-term, medium-term, what we can do with that space. And then negotiating the new lease under council's direction with the UEL. The goal tonight isn't to come up with an agreement. Obviously, there's some negotiations that have to go on with the UEL. So a little bit of feedback from council, we'll take that to the UEL and staff-wise try and negotiate a lease that'll then come back to council for another chance to comment on. And then, depending on the direction we go, try and find that new service provider for some of our vacant space as well.
Thanks, Clerk. Thanks, Director. Yeah, I'll start off with some comments because I've been on the Archives Board, so I have a lot more history on that. So really like the idea of freeing up more space at the hub. Councillor Ward and myself continue to talk about there's great opportunity for use there, and that's great, and I think that's a great step. We have some unutilized space at the Civic Center today, but it will be up to the UEL what they choose to do. And I believe, and it's up to the rest of council, with us and North Dundas sharing the cost over the past years, we shouldn't burden the cost of their board that services not only North and South Dundas, but Eastern Ontario, right? So their board should have a paying agreement for space in someone's municipality, and we're willing to potentially offer space up in a good location. The library's there's some good synergies, there's a boardroom to meet in, so there's kind of interesting steps on that side, as well as when it comes to the longer term of the archives. I would like us to as a council team and some staff, 2 things is tour the archive we have today, again, and then maybe go to North Glengarry and see their archive, because some decisions do have to be made eventually on what we want to keep as an archive, physically, digitally, et cetera, how we store it, right? So now that we don't have a partner with North Dundas, it's our opportunity, it's our archive totally, so we should look to see what's happening in other municipalities before we make any long-term decisions on how we treat that. But those are just kind of my general statements that kind of, I think, go along with what the Director and Clerk Laverne were talking about. Questions, comments? Councillor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. So I agree with everything you just said. I think, moving the UEL space to the Civic Center is my preference. And then offering them, in my opinion, I know you said in your report you were looking for some guidance on leases, and like my preliminary thoughts are like maybe we could do a subsidized lease like we do for the library, but that's just my input. Excited to see that the hub, I'm gonna stop calling it the youth hub, the hub, have more space to do new things, especially just like you said earlier, that we're growing in Iroquois and we're gonna need more space for other things. My other just really quick comment is to the mayor's point, once we do see what we have, what space that occupies, and then what we're going to do in the future, I'd like to also see maybe the archives be in a different location as well at that time. So that's from long-term planning, look at the facilities, like I would love for that to move closer to the library, because I do think there's some synergies there. When you're at the library, you're looking for materials. At the archive, you're doing the same thing. And I'm not a specialist in historical, so hopefully no one takes that as an offense, but similar, looking for similar things. So that's kind of my comment, and yeah, I think that to your point there, I'd love to tour, so if that can be scheduled, or if you want to leave that to the next council.
And I think you're,
also fine.
At minimum, the agreement should be the same as the library. Similar, we're supporting the community, but it's also, we need, it's capital we have to invest in, an asset in the future, right? So we need to have rent. For sure. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad. So just, I know that the amount of material that the archives has just grows and grows and grows, because like through talking to Susan Peters, like she quite often just comes home to boxes and boxes of stuff on her front doorstep that random people have just dropped off because they have no place for it and they don't want it to go to a landfill or something like that, so they just give it to her. And she quite often says, what do I do with all this stuff? So at some point in time, we may just have to start telling Susan that she has to say, no, we can't accept anymore. We just have to take like the minimums of things that we need to have instead of all the things that we would like to have. And also there's probably an opportunity there for some digitalization of some of the materials to reduce some of the space as well. So going over to the United Empire Loyalists, so I don't know if we're going to get into the nitty gritty on a lease today, but just a general question, do they currently pay anything?
They do not.
And we're going to be asking them to pay in the future. Has that conversation been had with them, and they know that something's going to be coming? Okay.
Yeah, we've been upfront with them all along that eventually this will come to council, and this could be something we propose. So that was back in December, and we reached out again to them to let them know this was on our agenda tonight. So tune in just to hear what we're talking about. And I don't think how it all came about. If you think back a couple of councils ago, how the archive came about, and then the UEL, like the collection didn't want to get lost. So MP Duncan and Tony Fraser, and I think and Mayor Byvelds, got it together, right? So we want to see it continue, right? But I think that it needs to be a shared cost with all the folks that use it and take it on. So and or self-sufficient if they do charge for materials, right? Anyways, your comment about the things on Susan Peters' front step. This is why exactly we need to investigate and do a tour, because there's a difference between an artifact and something we need to archive. And we've got them mixed. And we've got them together, to your point. Susan doesn't want to throw out this picture of, the council team of whatever day, right? Or something, right? So that's what we really got to get now, descriptive on, does the South Dundas Historical Society own the artifacts and the archives own the documents? I don't know. I don't know that, right? I think that's why going out and taking the time now to investigate, and why it's, you know, we haven't made decisions instantly because there is so much stuff and so much to go through, and North Dundas just moving out took many months of planning and organizing for them. So yeah, but good point on the artifacts, right? It's important. It's important to have them, but it's also how do we store them?
Yeah.
And then how does somebody view them?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, on Indiana Jones, the movie, the whole warehouse is full of boxes that are sealed up and nobody looks at them.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, so obviously you're looking for a little bit of direction, so I agree with the, moving forward with a lease agreement with the Empire Loyalist. I think that's the fairest way to do it. And as far as the archive building, you know, it goes along with what we're all saying about making sure we've got the proper information that we are archiving. But I think when we do make that long-term move, we want to make sure that this building, this room is set up properly. I'm not saying it's not today, but I don't think we just want to dump and run and then wait, you know, and spend 5 years of setting this up. I think we should be very slow and calculated and ensure that when we're putting something and setting it up, it's set up for the future right away. So that would be really my only comment on that. And I visited that archive facility a few years ago. Might not be the same one, but it was I think run by the same person, and it was very well filed. I mean, it was like a government filing system that it was very particular. It was very cataloged properly. It was like everything was right in order. So that's my comment I would say is before we make that big move, let's make sure we're setting this up properly. If we need to start investing in putting away money for additional shelving, proper shelving, whatever, I think we should be thinking about that now versus at the time.
Yeah, good point. Anything on Councilor Reno, or you're good? You're in support with that?
Yeah, for sure.
Good. Okay. I think that's the direction. Or any further questions? You got the direction. Okay. So leave that with the with the staff team on that one. Okay. I guess we're moving to 11B. Website plaza user fees. I'll turn it over to the Deputy Mayor.
You said that was a deputy or mayor's, we're gonna take a quick recess and we'll return in 5 minutes. Okay, thank you, and welcome back to the Municipality of South Dundas's regular meeting. We are going to continue with the key information report on the implementation of the Plaza user fees final steps. CAO Bendahan or CAO Bendahan? I see the pointing. So
Yeah, I'll
have the
start this, and of course turn it over to Director Jansen for any questions that might come up. I do want to thank Ms. Serendi as well for her support on this file as we've kind of moved through this over the past couple of months. So what we're hoping to do this during this meeting is just to essentially quickly summarize where we are, what our proposed next steps are, and make sure we've got thumbs up support and continue to move this process forward. Of course, completely up to council. If there's some change of approach, direction that they want to take, we're happy to take that input and feedback and move forward with that. So I guess as a first thing, just to recap where we are with this process, the priority for council was to address the physical condition of plaza infrastructure. This was something that this council very much committed to during this term. So that we have completed in Iroquois in 2025. So again, Director Jansen and his team helped get that done in 2025. We're working towards that in 2026 for Morrisburg. And part of that also included talking about the framework of cost-sharing elements associated with the plaza properties. So where we are right now in terms of the background refresh is we've identified what costs are to be recovered versus maintained by the municipality based on a zone type of concept. So I won't spend too much time there, but just a reminder of how we've split those costs up. And then the question that was kind of key outstanding for council was how do we actually implement that cost sharing? What we've done is we've gone through a legal review and we confirmed that we could implement a fee specific to the service being provided at those plazas. So those services that are a municipal responsibility, or excuse me, that council deemed as a business responsibility, we confirmed we can provide that fee. We can charge a fee for that service provided to those individuals. So to get to that point, what we determined was the best approach was actually to create a plaza cost recovery policy. So a copy of that policy has been provided to council in the, excuse me, as part of this council agenda. What that plaza cost recovery policy includes is the level of service. So we've gone through, made sure we had a good documentation of the level of service that's provided by the municipality, how costs are recovered, what costs are recovered, the methodology used to calculate an invoice for the fees. So reflecting on the level of service that's been created, what we wanted to do was essentially we have a uniform level of service we provide in Morrisburg and Iroquois. And we also identified in that policy what conditions or approvals are necessary to change that level of service. So if the businesses want to see increased canopy washing as an example, as something they want done, how do we actually go through and make sure that that type of level of service change takes place? We've identified in the level of service policy, or excuse me, in the policy itself, operating and capital costs. So definition of the costs, how operational costs are calculated, caps on cost increases. So what that's intended to do is provide some certainty to businesses as if, as an example, we have a crazy winter and all of a sudden our average we're calculating in terms of cost being recovered by businesses is quite substantial, that they're capped at a maximum of 15% to help them be able to plan for future years. So we're trying to provide some cost certainty to those businesses. And how we use reserves if we're overspending, underspending, and identifying some gaps in terms of those costs, and what the billing cycles look like for whenever we do recover those costs. Other highlights is the zones and responsibilities apportionment. So how those, like the table we recently saw, how we've calculated the fees for the businesses, and then how we actually go about if a business has a special request to council. And then there's an element of communication, so how that information is being shared with businesses as we continue to develop and work with this partnership with businesses. The the report also includes the fees based on the costs that have been calculated. So we do have costs for both Iroquois and Morrisburg. In Iroquois, the costs are, of course, my glasses are not with me right now, but we're in the $20,000 range, $20,500. That's okay. Don't worry about it. And in Morrisburg, it's more. Of course, there's more plaza area that is being shared. So that's 42,000 approximately. And so those costs are the ones that are being proportionally spread across the businesses. How that proportion is calculated, again, is in that policy, but essentially, it's based on square footage. For dining establishments, it's based on number of seats. So there's different ways, and the intention of that is really that calculation is through our zoning bylaw, and it's really, the intention is trying to identify the demand on the plaza parking and commercial, like the visitor demand into the plaza. So we're using that to use that demand to spread those costs out. So in terms of what really we're here for council this evening is we want to talk about proposed next steps. So what we're proposing in terms of how we move forward next after this meeting is having open houses in both Morrisburg and Iroquois. So in Iroquois, we're proposing the 15th of April between 4 and 6 p.m. In Morrisburg, 16th of April from 4 to 6 p.m. here in the municipal office. So it'll just be an open house. We'll have the information available, the policies, some large printouts of the zones, and invite residents as well as plaza business owners to come in and chat with us if they have any questions. We do want to do a mail out specific to the businesses only within the plazas that are affected by this. And we'll advertise, of course, on social media and newspaper, but we want to be specific in our targeted reach out to the businesses so they know what we're talking about. And what we'll do as well is we'll make sure that even though we might be in Iroquois, if a Morrisburg business isn't available to come on that day, we'll have the information for both plazas available, so we could talk on either or. What we want to do as well in the mail out is just provide a little bit more specific information about how the calculation was arrived for the business, because we recognize in some of our consultations with the business groups, as an example, that there's, we're gathering information through MPAC often in terms of square footage, et cetera, but that information isn't always accurate. So there's an example of a square footage that included the canopy. Do I have that correct, Director Jensen? Where a business, I said, hey, look, my square footage actually includes the canopy. That's what's in my assessed value. So we said, oh, that's, great information. It's not something we have the ability to, we don't give MPAC the information. MPAC gives us the information. But we're happy to have those types of discussions, understand where there may be some issues. And ultimately what happens is the total funds just needs to be redistributed across the businesses if there are updates to it. So we fully expect that there will be changes based on information that comes forward, but we do want to make sure that they are specifically, identified in terms of what they're, how we've arrived at the calculation that they're responsible for, that percentage of the overall cost. After we have those meetings and hear that input, and I'm obviously invite council to attend those open houses if they're available to attend. Final policy will come to council, and if there's changes that come up through that, then we can have that dialogue in terms of how we might change some of the policies or how things might be charged out. And then once we're kind of land on a final policy, we update the fees and charges bylaw and pass the policy, and we are in a position to move forward and close the chapter on this.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to reserve my comments for now. I'd like to open the floor up to both councillors to see if they have any comments or questions before I have some comments myself. So I'll open up the floor. Go ahead, councillor.
We're playing tag here. So this is the first that we've seen actual numbers and dollar figures. And so the first thing that I was thinking was that it's very complicated the way that we are like we were figuring out these fees. I know that there was going by like, the number of parking spaces and stuff. And so would it not be, is there a simpler way that we can do it to make it just more round figures? So could it just be something, instead of it being based by parking, could it be based by, is there a calculation that we could use, like just square footage of stores or something like that? And so that was one thing I was wondering, just for simplicity's sake of just keeping it simple. And another thing, so there are some of these fees that are very, very high. In terms of the ones that I'm particularly looking at myself are for restaurants. There's one restaurant in Morrisburg Plaza that is $5,000 or somewhere around there. Did I read that right? That we cannot have that. That is, in my mind, that will devastate a restaurant. I think that we should look at putting, if we use this formula, we have to put something in place like a cap that you don't pay over this much, regardless of how much jigging around gets done with the numbers. And I think that cap needs to be set fairly low to start. And I would suggest somewhere around like $1,000 or maybe something like that, just to get us started at this. Because if a restaurant gets hit with, a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 bill, my fear is the very first thing that's going to happen is that a close sign is going to go on the front door and it's never going to come off. That's my fear.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Ward?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. So I think my comments are more just about the next steps, because I do think that the public input is important. Like, I have my theories on it, but I'd like to hear more feedback from the public. So I'm just two questions through you, Deputy Mayor, to CAO DeHaan is the times are 4 to 6. Is that amenable to some businesses? I think a lot of businesses, their operating hours, I'm just wondering if they should be later in the evening perhaps, or early in the morning. We've gotten some feedback about early morning and late evening. I'm just wondering, 4 to 6 might be kind of prime business time or closing of business day for some of these businesses. So I'm just wondering if there's flexibility with staff on changing those times.
Through Deputy Mayor, absolutely. I think what we learned whenever we did the initial meetings, we offered a variety of different meetings, and we didn't, to be honest, I would say we didn't have a great uptake. And it was days, early mornings, evenings, middle of the day. And I do find it challenging whenever we're talking about trying to catch everybody. You're never going to find a time. So I certainly, if council has some suggestions, I'm confident that staff, as long as the facilities are available, we can make ourselves available. But I would also suggest, if there's a concern that we're going to miss some people, I think we're very happy to meet one-on-one again with people and kind of go through that, and we could make that part of the mail out. Like, here's when we're open, whatever council feels appropriate, that, for a drop-in. But if you cannot make this, please reach out to us. We're happy to pop over to your business and have that discussion at any point in time. So I'll leave it to council to give us direction on this one.
And can I have a follow-up as well, through you, Deputy Mayor, again, to the CAO DeHaan, is the format of this session. So, I understand what an open house is, and, you set up the boards and people mill about and provide their comments. I'm just wondering if something more formal, and I look to the rest of council for this, is something more formal, like a sort of like a planning concept where it's actually a formal meeting where they can provide comment. It's on record. Because I do think there's quite a few business owners that want their opinion to be on some sort of record, as well as I think it would be well served to the individuals I've talked to have a presentation from staff to get a total understanding. I'm not saying that hasn't been given to them, that opportunity hasn't been there, but there is that desire to, with the fees involved, to see that entire presentation put together and what that level of service kind of agreement or policy looks like and how that impacts them. So I'm just wondering if the format can also be changed to kind of be more of like a public meeting rather than an open house. And I'm not sure the formality or if we're able to do that, but that's kind of, I put that to council too, to see if that's kind of the format we'd like to entertain. And And then, yeah, I'll reserve all my other comments until we receive feedback from the businesses before we talk about the fees.
So point well taken. I think if we were looking for, I'm going to call it more of a public meeting rather than an open house, then, we have an official start time, right? Because that's always been, in my experience, a challenge whenever you have an open house. If it's too wide open, people aren't sure what time to come for the presentation, or they come for the presentation right at the start, and then you kind of sit hoping someone might show up 3 hours in when it's. So I guess all this to say, like, we're happy to take council's direction on this one. If we want to do a public meeting, we can do that. And if the times maybe it's a start at 6 till 8 o'clock, that's fine. If we do we want to do 1? Do we want to do 2? Certainly, yeah, I guess we'll take direction from council on this one.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. So, yeah, a couple comments for myself, just on that. I think what we should do is more of a formal public meeting, to have kind of a presentation that's prepared. I think that would serve us the best needs, just other than just us talking and soliciting feedback. One of the suggestions I would make, if I like the idea of having 2 days, but maybe we stagger the days or stagger the times. So you say that you're going to have Iroquois, Morrisburg information available. So maybe you have 4 to 6 in Iroquois. Maybe you have a 6 to 8 in Morrisburg, where it's staggered times. Where if you can't make the one meeting, you can make the secondary meeting. So I would suggest that if that's amenable to councils. Yeah, go ahead. Just on the schedule.
Yeah. So just to get back to like an actual public meeting. So if it's a public meeting, it would have to be here and it would have to be broadcast. Correct?
Clerk LeBrun.
Thank you for your question. So through the deputy mayor, if we were to schedule a public meeting, it would be a meeting of council. So it would have to be advertised and promoted as a regular council meeting. Sorry, what was the second part of your question? So we, in our procedure bylaw, we do have, we don't have to record it. It's an opportunity if we can, which also means that we can pick a different location. So if we want it recorded, that would be my preference if it's a public meeting, to have it here. However, it's really up to council to decide where they
Maybe
want
I'm
that.
wordsmithing a little bit here, but can it be considered an open house but a presentation from staff just to start the meeting? That it's not then an official public meeting, it still becomes an open house, but it just comes with a presentation.
Correct. So an open house with a presentation from staff, I think it wouldn't be considered a public meeting. But if we wanted a public meeting, it would be similar to tonight, where there'd be sign-in, people who speak have to give their name, their address. It's more formal. It's a formalized process as opposed to an open house.
I personally prefer the public meeting format, just because then everyone signs in. They're the ones who are getting the information. If they want further information, we have their contact information. We're aware of who's participating. And then to CAO, to Han's point, I think that it's important too that, that way people know to show up at that time. The presentation is given, they provide their comment, and then they can leave. It's not a kind of mill about, did my comment get recorded? Did somebody listen to my thoughts? Like, it's more of a formalized process. That's my preference. And that's where I'll sit.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that as well. I really am okay with that. Let's just properly advertise. Let's make this as a proper meeting. It's open to the public, and I like that format as well. And I'm glad it doesn't need to be recorded. I'm glad it doesn't need to be recorded because I don't want to record it. But we could pick a bigger, the Civic Center or a bigger venue to host the meeting. So it'll allow us to do that. So I'm fine with that. The only other comment I'm good. Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I wanted to circle back at Councillor Smith's comment, because what we present I think in my personal opinion, what we want to present to the public through this public meeting is what we kind of feel is appropriate in terms of where our methodology is, again, calculations subject to some changes. So if there's some direction with respect to caps for restaurants or looking back through a square footage basis rather than parking demand basis, like I would actually suggest we might want to go through that process, reconvene again, make sure we're comfortable with it before we actually kind of commit to a public meeting. So just that's, I guess, this was my opportunity to respond to that comment. So I guess we'll look for council's direction on that one too.
Yeah, from my perspective, I think this is the draft of what we've been proposing. I think we've been consistent with the approach. This is the approach that council has asked you to, or staff to proceed with. I don't disagree with Councillor Smith that there's some of these are a sticker shock to me. But I don't think we should be in a position to talk about a cap. I just don't think there's going to be a formula. It's got to be formula based. I don't think it can be just it's this business, so we should only, cap them to this amount. And if that business, I just don't think that works. It's got to be formula based. I think what you've done is exactly what the three of us has asked staff to do. I think this is what we present. This is just the feedback we're looking for. We've been very open and honest about that right up front, that at the end of the day, we want the stakeholders, and I've been very consistent with some meetings I've had with some of the merchants. This is a stakeholder, and I consider this a partnership in the process. I think we present as is. There's going to be some people that are going to come that's going to go, I'm at 5 Main Street and you want me to pay $8,300. That's a sticker shock to them. But let's just get the feedback. I mean, we're being open, we're being honest. We've always said we want to be transparent, and I think this is part of the transparency. And as I said to a couple of the merchants that I've talked with, we have not made a decision. We've not made a decision on these total fees. We've not made a decision whether it's going to be a partnership and cost shared. We've not made a decision if we're even going to move forward. But I just think we're at the steps where to prolong it and to try to figure out another solution. And then, maybe somebody doesn't agree with that solution. Well, here's another solution. I just think we move forward with what the work you've done to date. We will present it as it's a draft and it's a feedback. And I know some of the feedback's going to be, no way am I paying this. But hopefully we do get some feedback. And maybe there's a formula out there that works better for everybody that we haven't thought of. Okay, I think this is based on a square footage of the units, right? As you said, it's been prorated to the parking. So if it's really a parking area, it's not a parking stall. So, and I think you've done exactly what we've asked you to do. So I'm comfortable as a councillor, as a deputy mayor, as council, just to move forward with this and present this to the merchants and to the public, and then we'll conclude based on the comments we receive. And it's not only about the fees; it is about the level of service. We need their feedback on the level of service. We need their feedback on the proposed agreement as well, because again, they are the stakeholders just as much as we are in this. So I am very comfortable about moving forward with the plan as is, and I'll take it as it comes, just like any other public meeting. So I'm okay with that. Councillor Ward's okay with that. I think Councillor Smith, I think you understand what we're saying. I think you're okay with that. So let's organize the meetings. Let's get them. I don't think anything earlier than 4 p.m. though. I mean, I think now I think the three of us would like to attend these meetings, or I know I'm planning on attending the meetings. So I think the evenings do work. Yeah, and we have to for quorum. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you do silly, you have to. So yeah, I'm okay with that. So are we okay? Is there any further discussion on this? Because I want to bring something else up. And I think it is appropriate with the three of us, because I believe the other two, the mayor and the councillor, did declare so. But I have another question that I want to.
Sure, and I apologize if I missed it in those final remarks. So start at 6 o'clock. Look at shifting at 6 to 8.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I don't know.
I'm more asking for your own personal calendars more than anything.
Well, I was thinking 4 to 6, 6 to 8, and you stagger it. But I'm open to anything. I'll make it work.
Yeah, so just getting back to times, so we were going to do an Iroquois one at 4. I would struggle to get to Iroquois by 4. If if we have to maintain quorum, if we all have to be there, so Councillor Ward, like even you would probably struggle to be there on a Wednesday at 4, I'm gonna guess.
5 to 7. 6 to 8, Tom. It's like an auction, man. Like pick a time that's good for you.
I mean, every hour later is better.
Okay, is 6 to 8, is you comfortable with 6 to 8?
6 to 8 would be preferable.
Okay, so why don't we just do 6 to 8? I don't think then we're gonna be able to, like, what about the Mooresburg time if it's earlier? I don't think you're making that either, right? So it sounds like in order to have quorum, you just grab your mic there for a sec, to do quorum, we're gonna have to do the same time, for both days, by the sounds of it.
Yeah. Sorry, we're okay schedule-wise? Okay, we were just checking this, because the Civic Center is quite busy during the week at those times, so we just wanted to double check, because I know we had to, we bounced around a bunch of ideas before we could land on a date, so.
Okay, so it sounds like the time needs to be 6 to 8 for a public
Yep.
meeting to have quorum, so
sounds good.
we'll have the same time both nights, and you guys pick the 2 nights that works with the facility.
So just so that we have it for the official record, we will say on the 15th from 6 to 8 at the Civic Center, and on the 16th from 6 to 8 here at the Municipal Center.
Okay, good. Okay, so may I ask another question? And I am going to look at Clerk LeBrun just to correct me if I can ask this question, or I have to wait until Mayor Broad and Councillor Vino comes in. And the only reason I'm just going by recollection, but maybe they have to declare every time, but we talked about the design of the plazas themselves. We were presented with a design a couple months ago. In fairness to the engineers who were designing the grading and whatnot, we said, let's advance, because we felt that there was some common areas that really wouldn't affect the engineering. I really clearly remember the 3 of us saying, public meeting, we need the public meeting so we can get feedback from the merchants and the general public on the layout. I think that's very important. So, and I think we need to separate that from this discussion, but I'd like to know when we're going to move forward with that portion as well, or if you've got a thought process.
Yeah, so through you, Deputy, or to you, Deputy Mayor, sorry, not through you. So yeah, I have been working with the consultant, so we're still just sort of finalizing. There was a few things that council had given us direction on that I just wanted to make sure we were presenting a picture to the merchants and the public that wasn't skewed to actually what council had already provided direction on. Originally, I was sort of hoping to piggyback off the open houses here a little bit. With that disappearing, we will look at still having an open house. So the plan is here in the next 2 to 3 weeks to sort of schedule that date in and go from there.
Okay, and on top of that, I know we've had some discussions, CAO Dahan and myself's had discussions with, somebody's mic is on too. Sorry, thank you. I don't think I've got the main one, so just a feedback. With Director of Transportation at the county level about the extra property that we were looking to either lease or retain. So I know that's a positive discussion as well. So I just want to make sure we're not losing sight of that with the layout of the design. Okay, anything further on the discussions? We're all good? You guys are good? Okay, perfect. We'll just ask for the mayor and Councillor Vino to return, and then we will finish off this marathon of a meeting.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. We'll pick up at 11C, Key Information Report, Riverside Heights Water and Sewer Servicing Survey. CEO Dahan and Director Velda, welcome, thank you.
Thank you very much. So just wanted to give council a update from our engagement with the residents of Riverside Heights. So next slide, if you don't mind. So as council may recall, there was the interest in understanding associated with the St. Lawrence Parks Commission water and wastewater extension to Upper Canada Village and their campsites and then their properties. We wanted to, working with them, understand the potential interest in connecting municipal water and sewer in Riverside Heights. So to do that, we handed out approximately 85 handouts to residents in and around that area with a link to, we had an online survey, and we had physical copies, written copies available for people that maybe had some challenges with the surveys. Do apologize to those that tried right at the outset and had to go back in and redo it again, but we got it working and it was working well once it was going. On February 19th, we had an open house at the George Jowett Community Center. We had an estimated about 40 residents that showed up, and the mayor was there as well. St. Lawrence Parks Commission also sent some representatives to speak with residents and answer the questions that they might have about the project. So all in all, I would suggest that that was an excellent open house opportunity, and we had really good feedback from residents. And while they were there, we did encourage people to go to the survey, fill out the survey if they hadn't done that yet. So through that effort, we got about 22 responses to our survey, which represents about 26% of the people that live around that area. What we did with the responses, so we had, council would have seen in the council package, that's been the council package now, that what that survey looked like. We did provide a multitude of different questions to try and gauge people's interest and understanding of a variety of different things to try and create essentially a scoring matrix, so that we could better understand ourselves what the likelihood of connections may or may not be. So what we did was we created a model from the answers that we got, and what that model included was like their interest in connecting, the age and condition of their existing well and septic beds, the financial capability and capacity that they might have to be able to invest in such a connection, and their willingness to connect depending on the financial incentives that that might be available. So from the results, just so council knows, we extrapolated from the 22 responses to the entire area. So what we determined was that actually a pretty low number of likely connectors. So those are the people that would be interested in connecting, where the financial component wasn't a heavy weighted score. So they were high on either their age of their septic system, the age of their well, or challenges with water quality. Significantly kind of lean them towards, I'd take that opportunity without so much weight on the financial side of things. We had, I guess where most people lived, which is actually no surprise based on our results, is that there was 50% of the distribution was in what we called policy sensitive connectors. So those that would connect if the situation kind of aligned for them financially, age, replacement of wells, septic systems, they would likely connect if these things lined up for them. And then about 36% of people that responded actually were unlikely connectors. So those are people that, either they've recently put in a new septic system or a new well. So they've done that investment or invested in water treatment. And, a lot of comments we received were people saying like, oh yeah, it was a dry summer, but I had no problems with water capacity, which, being that close to the St. Lawrence River, high water table, we heard from Tomlinson that's the experience they have as well. So not a surprise. And so their likelihood of connecting is essentially no, because they feel very confident in the private services they have, or the financial component of it is so strong that they just don't have that capacity to be able to connect at some point in the future. So interpretation of the results for council, and this is again an interpretation of the results, and I highlighted on the bottom, this is a voluntary survey. We weren't asking anybody to commit, so this is just based on people who are willing to answer some questions, and we also did not have any capital cost estimates provided to them. So we have, this is very preliminary, but if there is a requirement for the municipality to invest in a significant amount of money into extending water and wastewater services to these residents, generally with a project like that, there is a component of that, if not all of it, that's collected through through a fee to the residents on top of the connection fee that we may already have. So, and we tried to be clear with residents that was the case, but like I can appreciate there's a lot of things being thrown at people. So not sure if that landed in every instance where we engage with individuals, but it is something that we have to be very, very mindful of, particularly because most people live in that area where the financial component of it is a key driver in their decision making. So, interpretation of results, people who, about 14% of people would likely want to take it, where if we provided the best of financial incentives to people, so it costs them nothing from a capital perspective, and we put the laterals right at property line, our best case scenario based on the results is 64% of people would connect, because that's the 14% of the yeses and all of the people that said they might if the financial conditions arose. And one thing I do want to remind council, when it comes to the financial side of it, again, we had these discussions with people, is that, yeah, we bring it to your property line, but then you're responsible to take it from the property line into your own house. A lot of people, depending on where their well is and their septic system is, then have to replumb part of their house inside to be able to get it to connect correctly. So there's still a financial burden, even in the best cases where the lateral is provided right at the property line. So in terms of next steps, what we're suggesting with council is engaging with St. Lawrence Parks Commission to determine what they're interested and able to do to help us subsidize connections to the residents of Riverside Heights. Because I guess ultimately what it might end up being is, there's a desire for the municipality to take ownership of the infrastructure that they're installing. But the challenge, as we've talked around the council table and advocated with the province, is that outside of that Riverside Heights area, there's very little private property that additionally would benefit from connection. So a lot of the rest of the property, I don't have the exact percentage, but I don't think I'm far off in saying like 90% of the remaining property that is along that 11-kilometer stretch is owned by the province. And, they may have future intention to develop it, but there's nothing that's been committed to as of yet. So, is it in the municipality's best interest to own some pretty expensive infrastructure if there's really only one customer on it? So what I would suggest is that that's a great topic of conversation between the municipality and St. Lawrence Parks Commission. The other next step I want to do is, of course, circle back with the residents of Riverside Heights just to provide a summary of these results so that they're aware of kind of where we've landed and what we're doing as a next step. And then I think once we hear back from St. Lawrence Parks Commission, provided council's okay with us taking that direction, then we have a little bit more of a discussion in terms of where we're going with cost analysis, ownership, and all those things.
Well, thank you, Seadohan. Thanks, Director Villeneuve, and thanks for your time. And I know Tia Fraser-Dupuy was there as well, and anybody that worked the survey and was there that night talking to residents, and it was interesting, passionate, and emotional, and it was a good conversation to have. So thank you for that work. Questions or comments to the team?
Through you, Mayor Broad, and yeah, thank you for doing that. I mean, I think we've been very bullish on open houses and public information sessions. I know it's a time commitment for staff, but and council who does show up when required or when needed or when wanting to hear the information. But I do think that's the right direction is do open houses, get the information firsthand. Now, I guess my question is, we'll have to look at what the future brings in terms of servicing through Riverside Heights. I mean, at the very least, if we don't provide a water main and stubs to their property now, we probably should set up that at least there's some stubs off the main. So then we can, in the future, if that survey changes or the likelihood of and maybe not, of another couple summers like we just had and wells are starting to dry up, that at least we've got the stubs in there that we can plan for a future water main to service some of the residents. So that's all I would comment on. Just let's set ourselves up, because I wasn't part of the design process when the water main was from Morrisburg to Iroquois. There was probably some advantages to having stubs that maybe weren't put in at that time, and servicing some of these residential lands that has come on board since that water main went through, right? And so I just would hate to miss that opportunity for future. Thank you.
Councillor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. So the only comment I would have is I'll ask the question first. So just so I'm clear, when we talk about looking at financial compensation where we perhaps ask SLPC for some assistance with that financial piece to get that going, we would still, though, ask those residents to pay the connection charge of, I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but they would still be responsible for that.
Through you, Mayor Broad. Yeah, they still have to pay the connection fee for both water and sewer. But I think what I think we're kind of looking for direction for tonight too. Well, not tonight, but the water line is water and sewer line is right now it's designed to be on the south side of Highway 2. You know, if we decide to go this route, obviously that changes everything. There's going to be more engineering fee. It'll be on going down the Riverside Boulevard, right? So we'd have to decide, you know, where we want that water and sewer line. Do we want it to go up the south side of Highway 2, or do we want it to go into Riverside? I think that's what needs to be determined, because if it does go into Riverside, there's also more engineering fee, because now the depth of the well is going to have to be deeper at Riverside. So then we have to bring this back to council, because it's going to have to be deeper for because it's going to be gravity fed from Riverside. So there's a few things that, you know, that's got to be, I guess, figured out before we move forward.
Councillor?
And then to follow up to that point, then if it's something that the rest of council would maybe be interested in, is looking at that a payment deferral as well as an option, where like that capital cost just gets deferred over so many years or so many bills, to maybe get some more appetite in that, so it's more affordable, because I'm sure that's quite the cost impact of individuals who maybe aren't quite ready yet to make that investment. So just a suggestion to look at in the future. I don't know if we're making that decision tonight, but just something I think if it does come to that, maybe we'd look at that and entertain that.
Yep, Deputy Mayor. Oh yeah, sorry, I see you, Don.
Yeah, and if I may, just to kind of reiterate what Director Villeneuve was saying, is that I think there's some engineering solutions, even in the design, where we could without major increase to the project, actually get servicing into Riverside Heights a little bit easier, or a little bit less costly, but absolutely, and I can't quite, I don't have the survey right in front of me, but I think that was even that deferral, or a deferral of payment, or, you know, spreading it out over 20 years. That's the kind of thing we actually talked about with residents, or offered as like a potential financial incentive for it as well. So those are things we're absolutely are on the table for sure.
Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad. And just subsequent, I guess I didn't realize what your ask was at the time. Now that I've heard what the ask is, I think there can be some high-level engineering reviewed at this stage. That's not going to cost a lot of money, just to kind of figure out location, if we need other components or other design elements or construction elements or whatever. So I'm okay with just moving ahead with some little bit of engineering. Again, I think we need to set ourselves up for the future, regardless if we do it now or if we do it in 5 years or 10 years. For the little bit of cost, we're already designing this. It's already designed. So for a little bit of extra cost, I think we should move forward on kind of high level and figuring out the water and the sewer designs.
Yeah, no, just a comment too is exactly why Infrastructure Ontario and Rural Affairs and our delegations at Roma were talking about, hey, you're investing $40 million in a water wastewater line. There's property here. What else can we open up, right, to help with all the fees, including their own fees, right? So those are the conversations we'll keep having. Yeah, Councillor Smith.
Yeah, just to kind of go off track here a little bit, but if you're going to hook up to a residence in Riverside, like, it's not just hookup fees. Like, you have to replumb your house to run like a new water. And so most of the properties at Riverside currently have their septic in the back, well in the front. So you have to, replumb your whole house from the back to the front. The same with the water line's easier. And then on top of that, you're also talking about, you have to decommission a well, likely, and decommission a septic. So there is quite a bit involved in it, right? Yeah. So.
Yep. For sure. Okay, any comments? All right, thanks for the update, very much appreciated. So we'll move into 11D, key information report, rain barrel distribution program. Clerk LeBrun.
Thank you, Mayor Broad, and to Council. So Councillor Ward alluded to this program in her update, her meeting update from the Environmental Committee. So we're looking to partner with a company called rainbarrel.ca. This company offers discounted rain barrels and composters to small, medium, large cities. So they've been successful in New York City, Chicago, but locally and more relevantly, South Stormont is in their second year of this rain barrel program, and the city of Cornwall have also initiated it. So this was brought to the Environment Committee last month, and not only were they supportive, but they actually want to help deliver the program. So the way this program works, it actually benefits residents directly through water conservation and cost savings by reducing the strain on the stormwater and wastewater infrastructure. So one of the things that we've talked about with council is the tie-ins to the water sewer lines. This would be a great solution to start incentivizing removing those drains from going from our water sewer system into actual rain barrels for water conservation. And this obviously became more of a benefit after this past summer with the drought that we've had. So how this program works, it's a consignment model, which means that we pay for nothing up front. Units are shipped. It's like a very similar to the tree giveaway. It's a pickup day for your rain barrels. So we would make an order of, actually the minimum order is 70 rain barrels. And we would have a pickup day. Residents would pay online. It's all, what's the word? It's all managed by rainbarrel.ca, but we would have a website for it where people can go purchase their rain barrel at potentially $65. They would come and pick it up, or for an additional $10, they can get it delivered to their house if they don't have the means to pick it up. So this report today gives you kind of a high level of what that program would look like, but for the purpose of the report tonight, we're just looking for the general support of council for us to kind of start organizing a pickup date. So our next steps would be to bring rainbarrel.ca to do a formal presentation to the Environment Committee. We would select a distribution model unless council has a preference on what type of model they would like to see. And we would develop and promote a plan to the residents. And the goal would actually be to promote that during Eco Week, Earth Week, which is sometime in April, near the end of April. So happy to answer any questions, but looking for feedback on this program.
Thanks, Clerk LeBrun. Excellent. Glad to see things keep moving forward, keep moving ahead. Questions, comments? Councillor Ward, Environmental Committee?
Yes, so I'm just going to share some of the comments that the committee had last night when we talked about this. So one of the things they asked is that perhaps this go out now to the public if council decides to move forward with the program and get at least 70. It's very similar to, I don't know if council will recall, I don't know if it's this council that did the food cycler program. So you had to pre-register for your food cycler to get involved, and the committee kind of sort of thought that that would be a safeguard for this program as well. So it's kind of the feedback that I got last night was that perhaps we should just advertise it, see if we can get the 60 or the 70 that are required, and then we really know that there's no impact to the municipality. And of course, the committee is committed to doing this program without necessarily asking too much of staff. So that's the only feedback I wanted to give. But other than that, if there's any questions, I think the clerk.
Very good. Yeah, I'm okay with kicking us off, get it started. Yeah, okay. Let's drive on. Let's keep moving ahead. Very good. last one, key information report, strategic plan update. Clerk Blunt, CEO DeHaan.
Thanks. I'm going to be very, very brief with this and then turn it over to the clerk to go through the presentation. I want to thank all the directors for all the input and work on the strategic plan initiatives we're talking about. This is something we want to commit to come back to council before the end of this term just to wrap this up. But we was very, I'm going to say, ambitious strategic plan with a lot of very worthwhile goals that have moved the municipality forward. And through the hard work of the people around the table and in front of us here, I think we've accomplished quite a bit. So quite pleased with that. And I think a particular shout out to Clerk LeBrun for all the hard work and actually putting this together and all the work she did in helping to kind of be the orchestra, was the conductor of it all. So with that, I'll turn it over to her and let her kind of run through. I know it's been a long meeting, so we'll try and be as efficient as we can.
And I did notice that the clock has been fixed at the back of the room while I was on break.
Thank you, CAO DeHaan, and to council. So, as mentioned, the purpose of bringing this report is to highlight some of our completed projects, things that are on the move, that are in progress. So just to remind everyone, our 2024 to 2028 strategic plan has 3 strategic pillars. So operational excellence, a growing connected community, and sustainable and dynamic growth. So in the following slides, actually in the report that council would have received in their agenda, we had several projects with initiative statuses beside them. So either complete, in progress, ongoing, planned, or future. But to start with Pillar 1, the Pillar 1 focuses on modernizing internal operations and public-facing services by replacing paper-based processes and digital tools across the department. So, the areas of focus are service digitization, modernization, operational capacity, communications, and records management. So, moving on to the next slide. Some of our completed projects that would fall under this category, these pillars, is our VoIP phone system. We updated our council chambers, our streaming software, our mics, TVs. We have successfully implemented our online burp permits and marriage licenses, and our fire department is been rolled onto our training platforms, our electronic training platforms, which really helps with compliance and records keeping. So things that we're continuing to work on are a cloud permit, which is our building and bylaw, digital platform where we'll be rolling out, bylaws rolled out, but we're looking to roll out the building side of things this year. Continuously working on our AMPS bylaw. Online timesheets have been implemented. We're waiting to do roads and recreation. We're beginning a water meter replacement program. And most notably, we have established an internal customer service working group. And the purpose of this group is actually to identify improvements and redundancies in our customer service processes. So our complaints process, so we'll have an internal group working on that to help improve. For Pillar 2, a growing connected community, some recent completions, the Iroquois Plaza revitalization, the revitalized baseball diamond in Iroquois. We have hearing-assisted devices installed in the council chamber. We've completed an accessibility audit. And last year we also upgraded the Matilda Hall dishwasher and hot water boosters. We upgraded the Justice Building accessible washrooms. All of these fall under a growing connected community, as I mentioned. Some key things in progress. Obviously, the arena renovations are starting in April. The Cenotaph project is well underway. Director Jansen mentioned the Youth Wellness Hub is this close. We've received funding for the Matilda Hall roof. accessible crosswalks, we talked about those as well today. So these are all things that are in progress. And things that are ongoing continuously, the waterfront development and enhancements that thanks to our two waterfront committees, our summer camps, the Beyond 21 program, and our ongoing fire prevention education and community outreach. So those are some of the things that we wanted to highlight under the pillar number 2. Under pillar 3, sustainable dynamic growth, we've completed our asset management plan. We've updated our subdivision guidelines. We've updated our sewer use bylaw. We've eliminated IC&I waste at the landfill, which I'm sure council will be getting an update in the near future on that as well. And some of the things that are in progress, our zoning bylaw, our water capacity study, our CIP applications are out right now. And we've applied for a ROD grant for a strategic plan. This slide is the amount of grant funding we received in 2025. Now, some of this funding, this is across several grants, and some of the funding is a combination of both like reoccurring provincial funding, federal funding, so that would be the OMPF, the OCIF, the CCBF. These are all acronyms that I'm sure nobody really cares about at 9 o'clock. But we wanted to highlight, we really wanted to highlight the amount of grant funding that we do get. Now, outside of the regular grants that we do get annually, we also received an Ontario Trillion grant, and 2 fire grants as well from Enbridge and the provincial government. So we did very well in 2025, I would say. And so the last slide is just our upcoming priorities that we're very much focused on right now. The Morrisburg, obviously, Arena project, the plazas, and the levels of service plan, our zoning bylaw, our capacity studies, that they'll be coming as a delegation sometime in the spring. And I'm sure, as everyone is aware, the 2026 municipal elections are certainly gearing up, and lots of work is being put into that in the clerk's department. So, but with that, we're happy to answer any questions to council. Tried to keep it short.
Yep, no, thanks, Clerk Cabana, and thanks to all the staff and members that work on all these activities that we've thought through and planned for and ongoing. So, questions, comments? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Broad, and I'll try to keep mine just as short. I think there's 3 things that that you should be highlighting in your package. Great report, but I think there's 3 things that we need to be highlighting. One is the continuous engagement with our MP and our MPP. And our ministers at the various conferences. I think that's a priority that we set out fairly early, and I think we continue accomplishing that. The second thing is the collaboration piece with all of the other municipalities or the participating municipalities in the SD&G. I think that is a priority that, or probably set in somewhere in the priorities list that we talked about right up front, that I think we're doing a fabulous job with. And it's not just 1 or 2 departments. I think across the board we've been doing that in all the departments, right from the top to the CAO to Public Works to Infrastructure, Dennis's program, to REC program. I mean, we go to the summits as well. So I think that's very important to highlight. And I think the collaboration with the fire, and the continuous collaboration with the fire. So, just don't sell yourself short on just projects. I mean, I think there's a lot to it that we should all be proud of, and the advancements we've made. So I just want to highlight that as well.
Yeah, no, thanks, Deputy, for capturing that. Very good. Okay. All right, thank you very much. With that, I have 2 motions. Thank you, Councillor. Of a bylaw, 2617, been a bylaw to adopt, ratify, confirm matters dealt by resolution, be read and passed and open council, signed and sealed, moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. And let it resolve the Council of South Dundas adjourn to call the chair at 9:06 p.m. Moved by Councillor Vino, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor, carried. Very good. My monologue tonight will be short. I wore my Morrisburg Lions tie tonight in honor of the last couple of weeks at the Morrisburg Arena until construction hopefully begins for that. And that really means our indoor ice season ends and we'll be moving to outdoors. So keep an eye out for children and adults playing throughout our communities. So with that, have a great night from South Dundas.